Wish I could feel with them, but will it change really?
I did build with them, some did change really, did feel me and change course, pilot thoughts back on course, ancestral mindset, knowledge of self, won't get you where crime sets, eyes on fake wealth, books before recreation, study a trade, I know young God videographers that won't work as a slave, they still get straight A's, won't stray into gay ways, they play safe, won't make haste, their thoughts are not hate based, would never have a case or need a lawyer, study the prophet principles, jurisprudence will work for you. Sons of God, not thinking like a boy or a man. Pants pulled up, no tat on fingers or back of the hand. Always makes eye contact, but some little brothers talk to the floor when I ask questions about the law. Sharp youths want me school them when they schooling me half of the time. Proving to me give youth truth, no one could fool them. Can't bandule them or try to rule them, or they'll rule you with the iron fist too. Just because they're young don't mean their mind's not ancient. Aquarian age, force change and higher self-replacement. Pull them out the shallow grave, knowledge of self-basement or bunker. Youths know it's mental slavery they under, and understand to receive you must give, and understand we all die, but most don't live.
Wish I could feel with them, but will it change really?
Peace, love, fam, love.
Wish I could feel with them.
Presentation, Grand Chief Kamal L, the Constitution and the rights of indigenous people, right? Another thing to put on the record, August 20th, a brother by the name of Kamal, he's gonna be presenting his In My Lifetime hip-hop collection of golden era memorabilia. So he's been collecting stuff. Go to shows, get autographs or whatever and whatever. So he has 15 years worth of stuff, right? So he's setting up a hip-hop museum type of vibe. You know what I mean? People to come and, you know what I mean? Check out everything. That's at the Great Hall, 1087 Queen Street West. And what they're also going to be doing on that day is they're going to be screening the first Wu-Tang Clan, Black Moon and Smith & Wesson concert in Toronto from '94. Right? So that's also going to be part of the screening. Right? So for today, we just wanted to quickly touch on some words of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali with regard to the Constitution, since that's the topic for today. So we can get our mind frame in the right place for when Brother Kamal starts his presentation. We'll have a better idea of where he's going with you know that, so we can see that it's not just him, right? It's not just a brother that just has the idea that, hey, you know, Constitution applies to Moors, so we have to, you know, it's that this is since 1913. It's been enforced by the Prophet that we have to go by these standards, right? Okay. So this is the divine warning by the Prophet for the nations. And we're just going to read a portion of this, so we can get ourselves right. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mind back to their own national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, not the United States democracy or the U.S., right? The Republic, right? It is no more than right that the law should be enforced on all other American citizens alike, right? So he's saying that if all these other nations of the world are coming to the so-called landmass called America, right? And they have to, now keep in mind, there was no there was no naturalization process turning people into corporate ward states during his time.
Okay.
If you were a Turk and you came to America, you were a Turk that is now in America, right? Without the corporate, right?
Green card.
right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it was an easier transition. Now the transition is when those people come over here, automatically they're corporate citizens.
That's right.
Like before they leave where they come from, they're corporate citizens, right? So part of the game was getting people who come here to be identified as Americans, and then get the Americans who are here to be identified as black, Negro, colored, whatever. So then those people could come and take that place because they really can't come here.
Okay, but
without coming through us.
Right. But right now we're being represented by a fictitious entity, right?
Right.
And just adding to what you're saying about, you know, before they leave their country and they come here and they already a corporate citizen, but they already done giving up their rights and privilege with their own people.
Well,
so they already got every nation or every people have to be basically they have to belong to a group of people, right?
Right.
To be recognized as a nation.
Right.
So once they given up, you know what I mean, their indigenous status and they're going for like corporation stuff, they not knowing it.
No. What
initially, but that's what they're doing.
The issue is though, is that the only way that they get this corporate mindset is because of their government, which is a republic in most cases, doing business with this government, which is corporate. Right? So when we look at in Egypt, when they were protesting in Egypt because of, you know, ousting the leader of Egypt or whatever, right? Everybody over there, they're flying Egyptian flags, which is nationality. They don't have, you know, signs, oh yeah, you know, brown people need to whatever, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or no flags. Like everybody has a flag representing that.
What I'm saying, they're doing it as a form of protection.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah, it's a new form of protection.
It's ancient.
To a person who's oblivious to what's really going on. They looking at the situation saying, yo, they're gonna come up here and they're gonna start caking.
Right.
They're gonna start getting on the American dream.
Living the American dream in their country. And they're saying we're protesting against
country,
that.
but they abandon it.
Right. But over there it's still able to be picked up because every single Republican form of government is really run by the people, not the government.
Right.
And in most countries around the world, the people know that. In most countries in the world, it's only in America, specifically North America, that people have this weird idea of government being the guy who I vote for, and I'm, you know, voting for him, so I'm waiting for him to tell me what I'm supposed to do as a citizen. But everywhere else, that's why they go march and protest.
Right.
If you take note that everywhere that internationally that we see the demonstration of protesting, right? They're exercising constitutional principles, Islam. They're exercising constitutional principles to make the government do something in favor of the people. They're not just doing it just because, you know, like emotionalism, like how we do stuff, right? Somebody has to get killed before we stand up and protest something, right? Somebody has to get beat up by police before we stand up and protest something. But in other countries, if government even does a sliver of unconstitutional activity, people are standing up immediately. They're not waiting for somebody to get shot up and all that before they...
Why is that though?
Because they have national mindset.
Yes. But in order for the people to have national mindset, they have to like have a belonging.
They have to have
feel
a
like
constitution.
they belong into something before it gets to that point, because that's organizing a whole governing law to basically govern the people.
Right.
That's before that.
Yeah, but remember, yeah, that's before, right? The concept that the people have is before the Constitution, right?
Because the Constitution doesn't give you rights; it preserves your rights.
So
it's just
So if the
saying
people
that.
don't have if people have a concept that the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or whatever gives them rights, they're already in the food grinder. Because Constitution doesn't give. The Constitution protects and secures the rights that the people had, just like you're saying, before the Constitution even came about, the people had these rights. But and this is the importance of Noble Drew Ali. Because Noble Drew Ali's perspective was to get the people on that constitutional mindset, so
when things occur,
now we can say, okay, etc., etc. Right? Now we can say, okay, well, let's petition, let's protest, let's do whatever it is that we have to do based on our constitutional rights, which are secured by the Constitution, in order to put these guys in check that are trying to abuse us. Right? You know what I mean? And it's when we because we have to always remember that there was dirty Moors who came in and swayed the perspective of what Noble Drew Ali brought into some type of, divine.
Of course, because he was mashing up their meal ticket.
Right, exactly. Right? Which means that majority of those people who were down with him during the time that he was around weren't with him. All those people around him, with a select handful of people, were all agents sent in to get the constitutional thing out the way, so these people could remain black in an unconstitutional position, so they can continue to be taken advantage of by the people who they're thinking is the government, when the real government is the people that call themselves black.
Right.
But they're not of the mindset, because all their leaders are black, all their politicians are black, all their historians are black, anybody who they listen to is pushing the black ideal and keeping them in that unconstitutional position. Even with civil rights unconstitutional since 1800s. Supreme Court said civil rights is unconstitutional. And 2013, there's certain people going out and telling people that they should go picket and march or whatever for civil rights, when that's been unconstitutional since the 1800s. That's how blind our people are mentally of what's really going on in the world. Right?
Question: do our people even care?
They better, because if they don't care, that's why we always talk about King Alfred plan, and the fact that they're gonna get what the Jews got, so-called Jews got, but it's not gonna be put you in a furnace.
I have heard what the government has done to treat people that will stand up for their belief. They call them, or they put them in a certain type of terms, treaty terms. What's it called again?
Terrorists?
No, mortar.
Oh, yeah.
They made them mortar, meaning that they basically have to go through a whole lot of, they either suffer through it.
Yeah.
They go through
Or
like
they martyr
torture,
them even.
or they kill them.
Right.
For what they believe.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're dying for your rights, then no different than the guy in Tiananmen Square who stood up in front of the line of 50 tanks. They could have just ran him over and just kept going on their business. How come they didn't just run him over? Think about that. There was a guy with a little plastic bag or whatever. He didn't have a gun, nothing. And he's standing up in front of these line of tanks. And they didn't just run him over and keep him moving. Because he was a national. And with the whole world watching, if they run him over, like they're done for. Because you can't do that to a national. You can do that to a black. or a yellow guy, somebody who doesn't have any constitutional protection. But if you have constitutional protection, right, and remember, the constitutional protection all around the world is based on the American Constitution, because that was the first constitution. So everybody uses that as an example for their country in order to say, we have a constitution of Czechoslovakia, or we have a constitution of India, or whatever. It's based on the United States of America Republic Constitution.
Have you seen the original Constitution before they add the amendments and all this stuff?
That's the only Constitution. All those other stuff that have stuff added to it isn't the Constitution.
If you really look at it, a lot of those stuff that was on the original Constitution does not apply now.
Yeah, it applies now.
Because none of us are going to say that we're in enemy territory.
Yeah, but
so it cannot apply.
But it applies in the sense of having knowledge of, just like you said, if you know, right? If you know that, you know what, the original Constitution and all the amendments added onto it, then you know that there's constitutions that aren't really a constitution, that people, go around with and say, yeah, this is the Constitution and I'm going to stand up to this. But if that has 7 articles, right, and 20 amendments, obviously that's not the Constitution, because the original Constitution had 7 articles and 10 amendments. But it comes back again, if the people don't have the knowledge, right, which is what Noble Jwali came 1913 to get our people right out of slavery into the knowledge of constitutional in their mind, so that we can start taking the steps necessary in order for us to be constitutionally protected in our own land from the same people that you're saying are trying to undermine that. But without further ado, Islam, are you ready?
Islam, yes.
All right. So, brother, Islam, the floor is yours.
Islam, brother. Just to camelback off of your demonstration in regards to the purpose of a constitution and what it's here for, and how it's not here put in place to regulate the conduct of human beings, but the whole purpose of a constitution is so that you keep the government in check, so that you can use it to enforce rights that are already inalienable, things that you already have by way of the universe or your creator, whichever name you choose to call him. Islam. Now, you've heard Moors say this in the past. I got some proof right here that can verify everything that the Moors have been saying in the past in regards to constitutional rights, what the Constitution actually stands for and means, and this is right out of the European legal encyclopedia, which is called Corpus Juris Secundum. Corpus Juris Secundum is it's like an extension of a Black's Law Dictionary. As a matter of fact, you take the 8th edition Black's Law Dictionary, which is distorted. You want to study the prior edition, because they keep on distorting, they keep on abridging them as they go down the line. But one thing I like about the 8th edition is that it will give you a reference point. If you look up a word, let's just say you look up a word like color, or person, or anything like that, it'll give you a reference point in the legal or the legal encyclopedia, which is Corpus Juris Secundum. There's also another volume called American Jurisprudence, and also the Key West Law. And you can further, reference that word. Whatever the word is you're looking for, it'll give you case laws associated with it, and it'll give you a long paragraph describing what that word actually means. And that word, when you look it up in the legal encyclopedia, it'll be right in conjunction with those of us who come from, schools like the Moorish Order of the Round Table, Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Great Seal National Association of Moorish Affairs. Those of us who've been saying these things for years, you'll find these truths right up in there. And in conjunction with what the purpose of a constitution is for, I'm going to read this directly right out the legal encyclopedia, which is Corpus Juris Secundum, section 629. It's called Basic and natural rights. This is constitutional law. Now, mind you, when you're dealing with the corpus juris secundum, you have multiple different values. This particular value is the one entitled constitutional law, and it's section 629. Basic and natural rights, right? It says the term right in civil society is defined to mean that which a person is entitled to have, to do, or to receive from others within the limits prescribed by law. The entire social and political structure of the United States rests upon the basic rights which are inherent and inalienable, and which exist notwithstanding there is a specific enumeration of such rights in state constitutions. Did you hear that? That means that a constitution is not the source of your rights. It's just put there so that it can protect the pre-existing rights that you already had. And it says this right here. It says all people have basic rights which are inherent and inalienable. Inalienable means that it cannot be liened. When you catch a charge, a traffic ticket, anything like that, what they're doing is they placing a lien upon your straw man. They're placing a lien upon your rights. But if you are not in proper person, they can do that. You have to be in proper person so that way you can obtain, or, I mean, these are rights that already exist, but they're not going to recognize them if you're not a proper person. This is what makes them unalienable or inalienable or unalienable or inalienable. There cannot be no lien placed on these rights. These are rights that come from your creator. They come by way of the universe. And it's up to you to exercise them, because if you don't know how to exercise them, then they don't exist. It's all about, can you read or not? I don't know if you ever seen the movie, The Patriot. If you see The Patriot in that movie, they was releasing slaves, and I mean, it didn't do any good if they couldn't read. You understand? It's like, here go your freedom papers, but if you can't read them, they don't exist. For one, you don't even need no freedom papers. You're supposed to know law. Us as Asiatics, us as the mothers and fathers of civilization, we're supposed to know law. For one, we're the ones who taught the Europeans law. You understand? And for us to not know it, that's an undermine of status. And this is how they look at us when we step into their specific jurisdictions. We step into their courtrooms and we don't know law. We think you need to hire some barrister attorney to enforce your rights, which he's not going to do, or she ain't going to do, because they're officers of the court and they must abstain from practices which will discredit the court. And, you know, that would be enforcing your constitutional rights. You're dealing with an unconstitutional body. This is why we also have to understand, which we're going to get into a little later on, the history of the United States. And I'm not talking about what he says about the United States or what she says about the United States. I'm talking about the actual legal and lawful history of the United States, backed up on the record. This is what we need to know. This is why we wonder how certain individuals can come over here from other countries and establish enterprises while we sit there and say, oh, they just give them this, that, and the third. They didn't give them anything. They come over here utilizing national principles and commercial law. And this is how they're able to obtain businesses. But what do? We study BET, our children. They get our children. And they even got a slogan on BET now that says, nobody got you like we got you. just listen to it. They tell you what they're doing. That's that sorcery that me and the brother was building about earlier. That same sorcery is the principles of our forefathers that we need to get back in tune with, because these Europeans are using that sorcery and we don't know nothing about it. You can't, let's just say we deal with a boxing match. Let's just say Mike Tyson versus Holyfield or whoever, just to use them two names. Before they fight, Mike Tyson gonna be watching films. His trainer gonna be watching films on Holyfield and his past fights and vice versa. So you gotta know your enemy. Not to say that they're enemies, but you gotta know your opponent. You gotta know exactly what he's capable of doing. So we need to study that same sorcery that they use, and it's really just metaphysics. It's really just science and mathematics. But the thing is, they hold us outside of that. They hold us outside of a constitutional form of government. And this is how they are able to represent the sorcery back to us. It's just like if you tell a dog, or you have a dog which is domesticated, right? He don't know his true nature is a wolf. He thinks he needs to rely and depend on you for food, clothing, shelter, and water. And if you're not around him, he can't survive no more. So he doesn't know his true nature. He thinks that he's supposed to be domesticated. If you present to a dog that his true nature is a wolf, and he can go out and get his own food, and then you try to tell him to sit, he'll probably bite you. And this is what they use, that same science on us collectively. This is why Noble Drew Ali came to give us these principles. These principles have been lost. And he tells you right at the beginning of the Circle 7 Quran that these secrets have been held away by Muslims, by our own forefathers, and by the Europeans. On a grander scale, by the Europeans with the fraternal orders of Freemasonry that exist today. That's another thing that we all need to be studying. We need to study Freemasonry. We need to study vibrations and frequencies, because this is what they use in the media, in the hip-hop industry. Just why Noble Drew Ali said our press is our greatest weapon. Now, our modern day form of the press is what? The internet, online, YouTube. That's our modern day form of how to get words from here to there. That's our modern day form of publishing things. We can make things known, being that information age, that Aquarius age, we can make things known all the way in China. Just like we sitting here having this conversation now on Skype. Y'all way in Canaanland, I'm down here in Delaware territory. And we can share information. We wouldn't be able to do that 200 years ago. We did have a way of doing it, but it was a little slow process. And this was by way of the press, the publishing and the press, which is why Noble Drew Ali said that was our greatest weapon. And it still is to this day. And this is why we also, as Moors and temples, leaders, sheiks, etc., need to come together and do more things like this on a regular, so that way we can keep these things moving. You know what I'm saying? So this is what it is. The Constitution, supreme law of the land. We need to be very familiar with that, which we're going to go over it piece by piece. And it's like a puzzle that you have to solve out. Because if somebody just gave you a constitution, you ain't familiar with what law is and what true politics is, and you pick that document up and try to read it, you'll get lost. Anybody. You need the same thing with the Quran. The Quran is a very, very, very constitutional and spiritual document as well, and instructions are needed in regards to reading. Instructions are needed in regards to reading the Constitution of the United States, because there's hidden codes in there. There's things that's in there that if you're not familiar with how law and government actually runs, you'll read right by it, and then you'll be in that same mind state as, let's say, a paralegal. Paralegals, for example, are only taught and trained to read and interpret law in a certain way. So when you start presenting constitutional law to them, they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. They didn't teach me that in paralegal class. It's foreign to them, because the principles that they are taught are foreign to the Republic. We need to understand what the difference is between the Republic of the United States and the democracy of the United States. There's two different entities at hand. You have the original organic Constitution of 1770 or 1787, which is when it was adopted, ratified in 1789. Then in 1791, you got your 10 Bill of Rights. That's your Constitution. 7 articles, 10 Bill of Rights. And that's all in conjunction with cosmology, and as well as the human anatomy, because the human anatomy and cosmology are one and the same. This is where your X-alpha comes in at. As above, so below. That is in conjunction with the 7 major ruling planets and the 7 chakras, 7 eyes of Allah, the 7 Elohims, that run from the base of your spine to the top of your cranium, thus making you illuminated. We are the true illuminated ones. The Europeans are the ones who steal that birthright because they know your science. They wear your fez in secret. I've seen it. They'll wear your fez. You go to the George Washington Masonic Museum in Alexandria, Virginia, you will see all of your regalia right in there. And since Moors have been starting to go down there and take pictures, they've been starting to take some things out of there. The grotto room, they closed that down. That's where the fezzes are kept at. You'll see Bembe's fez in there. You'll see fezzes that say Morocco, Mecca, Al-Marak, Al-Masai, which means the Messiah. You'll see all types of fezzes in there with Arabic insignia on there. And that's a principle that we gave them. Noble Drali gave us this principle initially. When you come into the Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, and get that fez, you're already getting the highest degree of Freemasonry. Yep. In Freemasonry, you have to go through the highest degree, whether you're going through York Rite, whether you're going through Scottish Rite, or whether you're going through Prince Hall, which is Scottish Rite as well. You have to obtain the highest degree and then petition to be a Shriner. And when you petition to be a Shriner, this is when they start wearing your fez with your insignia on it, with a sword over top of it, concealing the truth about the Moabitess woman. Concealing the truth about the true mother-son principle. You got Masons that have been Masons for years and don't even know what the degrees represent. They don't know what, when they give a certain grip, press, do-guard, etc., they have no idea what they're doing. All they know is that they can pass by and greet another Mason, and another Mason will look out for them, whatever, give them a job, anything like that. But they don't know the spiritual reason why they do that, or the history associated with it. And they learn this history when they petition and come into the shrine. When they come into the shrine, it's called the Shrine of Islam, or the ancient Arabic order of the nobles of the mystic shrine, which there's also an organic portion of that, which is the ancient Egyptian Arabic order of the nobles of the mystic shrine, which is the original people. The original people gave them the order of the ancient Arabic order of the nobles of the mystic shrine, which is the shrines that you see today with your fez on. Same fezzes that you'll see right in George Washington Masonic Museum. They all deal with this constitutional body of information. And they don't want you to know it because you can literally tell them to get off your land. Because this land organically belongs to us, not no Indians. The people who they classify as Indians on this land didn't even call themselves that. They call themselves Moors. Indian is a misnomer. Even in India, that's a misnomer. They do this on a global level to be able to, if you can't identify who you are, you cannot proceed to take back land that belongs to the ancient people who own that land. For example, you have the Empress of Washita D-Dub de Munya in Louisiana. She owns that whole upper part of Louisiana. She didn't get that land back as an Indian. There's no Blackfoot Indian, there's no Choctaw Indian. She got that back as a Washita Moor. She didn't get it back as no Negro. She didn't get it back as no colored. Yet she has the same appearance as all of us available. She got that back by tracing a blood tie lineage back to the Joseph E. Mason Rouge land grant, which was falsely sold during the Louisiana Purchase. She was able to obtain that land back. And she also has a great deal of history in regards to the Moors that were on this eastern seaboard. She goes into this in her book, Return to the Ancient Ones, and a lot of that information is what she used to be able to trace her blood tie lineage back to get that land. Now, this is what us as Moors need to start doing more of. We need to start focusing on the same principle that Empress Verdiasi Tiari Gostin Ilbay did, so that way we can start acquiring back land. And one of the documents that we can utilize to do this is the rights of indigenous people, which we're going to get into later on. Now, the rights of indigenous people, 144 nations signed that document. The United States and Canada did not. Canada signed it first before the United States, and Obama went over to Egypt, came back after he did his lecture in Cairo. He came back and signed the rights of indigenous people. Now, under the Bush administration, it was rejected. And if you go through the document, which we're going to do later, you'll see exactly why it was rejected. Because you can literally tell them, get off my land. This land belongs to me. Same thing with Canada. Canada, or Canaanland, they rejected it. And when you go through the document, you'll see exactly why they rejected it. Because you can literally tell these people, look, you're not indigenous here. You're from Europe. Get off my land. I'm indigenous here. But if you proclaim that you are the African American, black, Negro, color, etc., you can't, that land don't belong to no blacks. Black is a connotative meaning of us Moors. This is a brand that they put on us as Moors. You can't say that, oh, this land belongs to black people, or this land belongs to Indians, even Indians. It don't belong to them neither. There ain't no such thing as Indians over here in North America.
Islam.
There's nationals. Islam? There's nationals here. We identify ourselves by national pedigree. Like Taj always says, we're the only ones that's out to sleep. We're the only ones that's out to lunch. The rest of the civilized world knows what's going on. I just came from Mexico during the equinox. And when I was in Mexico, one of the indigenous brothers down there in Mexico, he was saying the same thing that we've been saying. He was the tour guide. He was saying we don't understand how, but some of our forefathers have Negroid features. This now, mind you, he's a straight up Mexican, like any Mexican you would see, with copper-colored skin and the stringy hair. He was saying that his forefathers would have, curly, nappy hair, big lips, wide nose, and he was dropping it. I got some of this stuff on tape, and I'm gonna publish it on Facebook or on YouTube, and then post it up on Facebook eventually. It was it was me and Ali Bay down there and a couple other Moors. This was the Washita Moor cruise, and we was down there in Mexico, in Cozumel, Mexico, to go see the pyramids. And this tour guide Mexican, this dude, he was like a Mexican Taj Tariq. I mean, he was sharp.
Yeah.
He knew some sciences. We just sitting in the back like, all right, we already know this stuff, but these Europeans in the front, they ain't know. They was looking at him like, what are you talking about? He was just dropping it on.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we was in the back getting all souped up like, yeah, the rest of the civilized world truly does know this. We the only ones that's snooping. This is why they come over here and can, economically uplift as soon as they get here. Any country. Italians. And Noble made reference to this. Italians, Japanese, Chinese, Mexicans come right over here and start establishing businesses. But we don't want to study constitutional law and commercial law, so we can't just go to them and ask for them a handout. You get what I'm saying? We have to start studying these things in order to start doing the same thing that they've been doing. And a lot of them, like even the brothers from India that, be at the gas station and liquor stores and stuff like that, they have these bodies of information. And if you come correct, they'll share certain things with you. My father was telling me that it was an Indian dude at the DMV who was telling him that what they do is they go to the World Bank in DC when they come here and get loans or grants from the World Bank to be able to establish a business. And they do it as a national. They don't do it as no 14th Amendment citizen. They do it as a national, which is another principle that we have to establish. We got to get into the nationalization process and the nationalization process. And what we need to do collectively with that is we need to start making these Europeans naturalized, because they are not Americans. They are Europeans of German extract, of French extract, which is one and the same. German and French, they share the same bloodline. Of England extract, of Spanish, so-called Spanish extract. All these Europeans, this is where they're coming from. They're coming from over there, They're coming here and establishing communities and societies over here, and then present the information back to our people as though they are true Americans, and they are not. This landmass was already called America before they got here. It was not named by no Amerigo Vespucci. For one, he came in the 1500s. Columbus came here in 1492 with all intentions on furthering the Inquisition. He knew exactly where he was coming. All that stuff they teach you in school about, oh, he took a wrong turn, or he was searching for spices. Yeah, the only spices he was searching for was that melanin. He was searching for us. He already knew we were over there. He was, for one, he was a nice template. So he knew the composition of the planet Earth. He knew it was round. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was in school, they taught me that he was the first one to suggest that the Earth was round using an egg. And he knew exactly where he was going. But not to get too far into that, I want to stay on the topic. And right now, we're going to be going into constitutional law, and then after the Constitution, because even the rights of indigenous people is constitutional law as well. But we're going to go into the Constitution. I'm going to use certain reference points in the legal encyclopedia, which is Corpus Juris Secundum, to verify a lot of things that Moors have been saying for years. And what I like to stress to people is that, you know, we like to watch certain things on YouTube in regards to Moorish science and not do no research on it. We'll see brothers in court, Moors in court. We see Moors getting harassed by police and saying certain things, or we'll just see Moors just demonstrating on YouTube about law and things like that. And so what we'll do in turn is we'll go and start doing the same thing, just mimicking what we've seen on YouTube without actually doing any study. And what happens is when you do that, you start putting out documents and things like that, or saying certain things, and then they swing blows back at you, and then you don't know what to do, and you get jammed up. And then that same individual will start coming back like, oh, nah, that's more science, it's BS. I tried that, this, that, and the third, and it didn't work. It don't even exist like that. When you truly, truly know who you are, when you truly, truly know law, there's no such thing as it don't work. This is what it is, point blank, period. Yeah. And you must exercise it properly, because there shouldn't be no need that you should come to me for a document and I give it to you, and then you shoot it out there to them, and then come back and say, what do I do next? You're supposed to know already what to do next. You're supposed to live this. And, you know, YouTube is a great source to get keys from, but you still have to actually break that down. You have to study. You have to know what that is. You have to be able to, you have to know this stuff like the back of your hand. Prime example. I just went to court a few weeks ago, right? Now, I didn't go in there regalia up. I did this purposely because I already know that the court that I went into, these jokers in there are Masons. I knew this already. So I didn't even go in there with a fez on. I just went in there with Masonic regalia on. A suit, black pants, and a button-up shirt, and just a G-square compass on my finger. And when I went in there, first he was talking crazy to me, the sheriff, because you got to, it's either the sheriff, the sergeant, or somebody. You have to see him before you even go see the judge, and he'd let you know what's going to possibly happen or what you want to do, whether you want to plead not guilty and anything like that. So he was talking a little crazy at first. So then I showed him the G-square compass. He saw it. He said, "Oh, you on the square?" I said, "Yes." He asked me, "Where do I hail from?" Now, us as Moors, we don't hail from no man-made lodge. We hail from the celestial grand lodge in the heavens. But he wanted the answer, so I gave it to him. I told him I hail from Al-Akat Lodge #1 in Brooklyn, New York. So he said, "All right, don't even worry about this." She said, "It's all dismissed right here." And then he said, "Stay on the square." I walked out. No court fees and nothing. Now, keep in mind that sometimes when we go into these courtrooms with our regalia on, I'm not saying don't go in there with your regalia on. Show and prove who you are. But keep in mind, you gotta know how to fight certain battles at certain times.
More.
Now that is love.
Back up about a minute. back up about a minute and do that one again, because I know, you know, when we put it up on YouTube, it's gonna be
Big.
a little bit much for people. So if you could just slow down on the part with the sheriff and go through that again, but in a little bit more detail so people could actually understand what's going on in the discourse between you and the sheriff.
Okay. All right. Like I said, I already knew that going to that particular jurisdiction, they were travelers in there, or Masons. I already knew that. So I said, all right, now you got to keep in mind, that just to back that up, just like you said, just to back up for a minute, you got to keep in mind that in most jurisdictions, when you go in there, gilly it up, when you go in there with the dashiki on, you go in there with the fez on, you got to understand that they wear these things in secret. So when you come in there like that, in some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases when you go in there like that, they take it as though you're exposing them.
Yes.
So I went in there in disguise. I'm not really in disguise, I just went in there just like anyone else would come in there under their studies. Or, you know, I ain't gonna say their studies. There are studies. But I went in there, you know, just straight up as a fellow Mason. Because, I mean, we get the highest degree of Masonry initially whenever you put that fez on. When you put that fez on, you get that highest degree of Freemasonry. That which they have to go through years and multiple finances to get. Prophet Noble Ali came and gave us initially when he told us that we are descendants of the ancient Moabites. They got to go through 33 degrees, 32 degrees, 10 degrees in Europe to find out who the descendants of the ancient Moabites are. Prophet Noble Ali gave us that initially. So when I went up in there, all I did was go in there with black pants and a button-up shirt, G-square compass on my finger, crescent moon star on my finger. And when I went in there, he was talking crazy at first. He was like, yeah, I don't know what the court fees is gonna be for this, but we can work out a payment plan, this, that, and third. And I just went like this. I just showed him. All I did was just show him the light. This is called light in Masonry. All I did was just show him the ring.
Woo.
And then he said, oh, you on the square? I said, yes. He said, well, where do you hail from? And I told him, I said, I hail from Al-Aket Lodge, #1, which is the Moorish Rite Lodge in Brooklyn, New York, which is, I am a part of that particular lodge. And I mean, you can even tell him what temple you can, if he asks you where you hail from in that particular situation, you can tell him I hail from such and such temple. Because you got to keep in mind that the orders of Freemasonry, which I want to do a lecture on this as well in the near future, Cujo, I want to go into the origins of Freemasonry and what it really means and its connection to Moors. And you know, how we gave them these principles, how we gave them the order of Freemasonry. And they display it right on the back of the dollar bill, which I'm going to get into in a second as well. And, you know, I just went in there just like that. And I ain't even have to go in the courtroom. I don't even know what the judge looked like, or the magistrate. I don't even know what she looked like. I know it was a female, but I don't even know what she looked like. All he did was scratch out everything. And I was on my way.
Islam.
Islam?
All right.
Now, that's not going to always work in every particular jurisdiction, but it is something to consider. And, you know, when you, just like, there's no set thing that's going to work in every single jurisdiction. You got to, you know, just know every angle that you can possibly know and utilize every angle you can possibly utilize whenever they try to infringe upon your rights. And, you know, that's one thing you definitely need to keep in mind, is that all these people that you come across are Masonic. That's how they got their position. The order of Masonry is law and government in general and astrology. And they utilize that order in law and government to elect officials and make national decisions. These are the principles of our ancient forefathers that we lack, that we need to know. And the more that we don't know them, they're going to continue to use it against us. Like when I was building with the brother earlier in regards to the sorcery that they use. They use the science of vibrations just to be able to attract our children to places like McDonald's. They use the science of color vibrations to be able to attract our children to certain rap songs and certain R&B songs and certain commercials, things like that. They know what colors, or they know what vibrations the color red gives off. They know what vibration the color green gives off. They're well aware of this. This is our ancient science. These are the things that we need to know when we start interfacing with these people in law and government. And when we start interfacing with it, that's why I tell people all the time, it's a national and divine movement. We must know the law side and the spiritual side, which they're both one and the same. But when I say the law side, I'm speaking more specifically about what's written down as law, like constitutions and Black's Law dictionaries and legal encyclopedias, etc. These are the things that we need to be more familiar with when we interfacing with these people. And also the spiritual side, we need to know exactly what our true spirituality is.
Islam.
And Islam.
This is a Kenti. I got a question for you. I don't mean to interrupt you, by the way. Right?
Nah, Islam, go ahead.
All right, cool. I just wanted to know right off the bat. At what point in time can we merge the economy, our economy as a nation, and a social harmony with it? Once we develop, you know, we're generating revenues, you know, we're making we're pulling in fiat. At what time can we merge a social aspect to that?
Right now. We need to do that right now.
Right now.
Because, see, Noble Drew Ali, he put all these things into place in 1913. From 1913 to 1928. And since then, we have fell off of what he put into place. And what we need to do, the problem is, see, we got multiple different Moorish organizations, and this Moorish organization says we don't mess with them Moors over there. That Moorish organization says, oh no, we don't deal with them over there. We need to stop all of that. We need to cease that, irregardless of you know, whatever house you come from, don't matter. We need to cease that. We all got turbans and fezzes on. We all got the same national flag, and we need to act accordingly. If you say that the prophet didn't teach this, that, and the third, that's fine. That's cool. But what about those in China? They don't know anything about Noble Drew Ali. We need to come on the same principles that those in China would come on. You understand? And that's unity. This is why it's at the top of the divine constitution and bylaws. The unity is what we need to do. We need to come together to be able to take back land. And then once we start taking back land and our economical structure, as we had it laid out when the Europeans got here, once we get that back, then we can start arguing about who really followed the prophet and who ain't. That's, you know what I'm saying? The Europeans laughing at us when they see us arguing with things like that.
So
they be watching YouTube.
For real. So what's a good strategy or a good means of a good way to like encourage the masses that stir the masses that are asleep, and they don't look at it as, you know, something that they could utilize because they have to live right now. You know what I'm saying? So they don't really see the nationality as a thing where how they can get by, you know, day to day. Like, what's a good way to, like, you know, bring someone in that's new to the knowledge? Because I'm not really one that's big on talking a whole lot of court stuff to, you know, someone that basically, if you did it right, if you messed up, you messed up. But if they're taking advantage of you, you know what I'm saying? I'll be right there for you. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just trying to find like a good way to, like, you know, communicate with people and, you know, spread the word that, you know, we have a nationality of our own. We don't need to deal with democracy. You know what I'm saying? We can utilize democracy, you know what I'm saying? But it's not like to say, okay, well, we're dependent on it in a way where it holds us back. You know what I'm saying? And there's no growth, and we're just stuck feeling like, you know, things ain't going our way. You know, we gotta find some type of a scapegoat.
Islam, brother. I'm just gonna build with you on this, just quickly with what the young brother just said right now, with bringing in people or whatnot. What I would say to him too is people already have to be vibrating on a certain frequency, I think, for you to try to holler at them, especially about this information. If you're not searching initially, whatever I say to you is not going to penetrate. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's not necessarily your job or your duty to go out and try to be like, okay, let's do that. Right now, I think at this given time, we're in such a state of war, it's more like you gotta just build yourself, and people will see by example and will come to you and ask you and be like, yo, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? So like, for you to waste, like brother was saying, there's too many vampires out there. There's too many people who want to suck in you and want to take certain things from you. So you have to, in a sense, build yourself so you got to get on that level, that frequency, where nothing can penetrate you right now. You know, and people will begin to vibrate off your force that you're giving off to, and you'll attract that. And then you can teach and do whatever you do. That's what I tell a lot of brothers, because I don't even waste my time. Like, you know, like last night I was out, I went out to have a drink, and there was these two Moors, right? There's these two Moors there, these two security guards, right? And before I got into the place, I was gonna shoot some pool. So I showed him my nationality card. And the dude looked at it. The dude was from the Republic of Congo. And the next dude was from Guyana. So the dude from the Republic of Congo looked solid. Like, this brother looked like he was Mike Tyson's cousin or something like that. I wasn't trying to say nothing. Really still, you know? Brother looked crazy. So I showed him the nationality card, and the brother was like, okay. I've never seen one of these before. So the Guyanese dude goes, what is that? And the gentleman from Congo goes, it's his school ID. So I interrupt him, so I say, oh, well, let me correct you, it's actually a nationality card, right? I'm Moorish American, Indigenous Aboriginal of this continent right here. And they both jumped at me. No, you ain't no more. No. Don't bring that shit over here, bro. Don't bring that shit. And I was like, no, hold up, bro. I ain't here to argue with you. I ain't here to compete. I'm not here to convince you about anything. I'm just putting you on notice about who we all are as melanated beings. No, I ain't no more. I'm from Guyana. Nah, man, I'm from the Congo Republic, man. I'm from the Republic of Congo. You know, I ain't no more. He's like, I'm from Africa. I'm like, well, technically, none of us are really Africans, man. We really shouldn't be calling each other African. So we went on and we started battling for like about an hour, and I was just showing him this and that, and it's really out here. And I'm not one for calling anybody agent, you know? But the way the brothers were moving was like some real agent shit.
They might not have been agents directly, but they might have been taught by someone who is.
That's what I was saying.
You know, even when you deal with brothers like that, you know, you gotta ask them, like, okay, tell me the origin of Ghana.
Exactly.
Break down Ghana's flag. Where did it come from? When? Where? Tell me where Ghana came from.
Okay.
Who owns Ghana right now? I'm sure probably the British. I don't know who did. And this is another thing about Freemasonry, right? The third degree of Freemasonry, I don't even want to really get into too much of this. I want to save this for a whole nother demonstration. But the third degree of Freemasonry is the reenactment of the murder of Preamble 5th. There's multiple different degrees of understanding who Preamble 5th is and the three Jews that murdered him, which is Jubello, Jubellum, and Jubellum. One way of interpreting that, which Pleasant Bay also goes into himself, is that those three Jews are a representation of the three elite European families that own the globe: the British, the French, and the Spanish. single country on the face of this earth. It'll tell you what form of government they have, what kind of currency they use, how many adults to a TV, how many doctors to the population, the language they speak, what else? I mean, it goes into, it gives you all of the composition of that person, and with the currency. It'll tell you who owns it, who it's ran by. You get what I'm saying? And when you look at that in that particular book, you'll see that the IRS run everything. And you already know the IRS, or the 12 elite families of the so-called Illuminati, who run and control the IRS and the currency systems. All these different currencies, they all got fiat currency. They all owned by them. You get what I'm saying? It might say Congo Democratic Republic is the form of government on it. How does that happen? How do you have a democratic republic?
Exactly.
Well, they'll still retain some of the principles of a republic. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, I know somebody from Central Republic, Africa, and you know, he cracked me up. Just the way he talked, he cracked me up. He said, he come out here, he said, what's this driver's license shit? He said, out there, you don't need no driver's license, you just get in the car and drive. you see how they'll retain some of the republican principles, but it's still a democratic republic. They still run off that fiat currency. It's still owned by the Internal Revenue Service.
Drive, motherfucker. Drive.
Yeah, yes.
They're serious. They're serious.
I mean, that's how you gotta come at it like that. I mean, I was just in the same situation last night. I was building with a brother, you know, the brother, he was drinking and stuff like that, and he wasn't in his right mind state. So I said, all right, I see this ain't gonna go nowhere. But I can't be around people and not build. That's what I do. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to hear about what's going on in basketball-wise and hip-hop-wise and all that stuff. As soon as you start talking about that, I'm going into something else. And you know, immediately I start going into nationality and birthplace. And so he's sitting there trying to argue with me about, yeah, don't none of that mean nothing in Florida. I'm like, yes it do. I'm like, I know I got brothers out there now that have been exercising these rights in Florida. What are you talking about? You know, what about what happened to Trayvon Martin? I said, well, what was Trayvon Martin's nationality? He said, I don't know. That's your answer right there. Nationality is the key to everything. Of course. You can't, they don't have to respect nothing if you ain't no national. Even when you're a national, they still don't try to respect you. But you still can use that to your advantage to start costing them. Start making them pay for infringing on you. You can't make them pay in a proper way if you ain't no national. I mean, you can to a certain degree. If you're really sharp like that, know how to enforce your rights, you don't even have to. I've seen people, you know, deal with certain issues that haven't proclaimed. They haven't put nothing on the record, and you know, even when you proclaim your nationality, all you're doing is just letting them know. You can proclaim your nationality right in the temple, because we are the nation. They ain't the nation. We just let them know, just in case something happens to the point where y'all try to drag us into your jurisdiction. You already been notified ahead of time who we are.
Right.
And this is the same thing with the Sundry Free Moors. The Sundry Free Moors presented that petition to let them know that just in case something happens, we subjects to the Emperor of Morocco.
That's right.
We sovereign to this land. So don't charge us under the Negro Act. Charge us. If you just don't happen to charge us, make sure we get due process. And don't bring us under the Negro Act. This is the same thing we're doing now with this nationality and studying the Constitution. And you know, a lot of people, they be taking this stuff as a belief system. When you try to present it to them, when they see you with a fez on or a turban on, they think you're trying to give them some type of belief system. And I'll be trying to explain to them, like, all right, you say you're a Christian. They're like, oh, no, I'm a Christian. I'm like, all right, that's fine. What is your nationality? If you say you're a Christian. And, you know, if you want to really, really dig into that body of information, you're truly not a Christian. Well, I don't even take it there with them, because there's certain steps that an individual would have to learn first before you can even take it to the organic form of Christianity, where it came from, what it was established for, and the political jurisdiction that it holds. That's a whole nother thing that, you know, they ain't ready for if they don't even know what nationality is. So what I do is I just present nationality to them. All right, if you're Christian, that's cool. If you believe in Jesus, that's fine. But you don't put on your job application that I'm a Christian when it asks you what your nationality is.
That's right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
You're not supposed to put African American, Black, or any of that. These ain't nationalities. You gotta put what your true indigenous nationality is. And on our declarations of nationality, it says that we are indigenous to this land.
That's right.
And this is a document that we all need to study, the rights of indigenous people. We gotta start enforcing that, because everything that the Moors been doing, you know, attempting to do for the past 100 years is laid out right there in that document. And when we get into it, you'll see exactly why Canada didn't want to sign it, and the United States didn't want to sign it. Because you can literally tell them to get off your land.
Yeah.
There's clauses in there that tell you, that give you, I ain't gonna say give you authority, they just highlight your authority to be able to do that. And they agree to it.
Let's get into it.
Yes.
Let's get
Yes.
into it.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna go briefly through the Constitution.
Let's do it.
Just a few sections, and then we're gonna get into the rights of indigenous people. Oh, another thing I want to touch on real fast. This is out of Corpus Juris Secundum, constitutional law, section 642, which this is in regard to, like, let's say you catch a charge, a criminal case, and then they say, all right, here, if you plead guilty, we'll give you this, that, and the third. And, you know, we'll drop this, drop that, and give you this. Now, according to the Legal Encyclopedia, they cannot do that. And this is why. It's called, not section 642, pardon me, section 643. It's called penalty or reward. It says, the government cannot, by means of a threat of penalty or promise of reward, punish a person for exercising his or her constitutional protections or pressure him or her into waiving them.
What section was that again?
When they give you a plea agreement, that's what they're doing. They saying, look here, take this, or if you fail or blow trial, then this is what we're going to give you. That's a threat of a penalty or promise of a reward. That is saying right here in the Legal Encyclopedia, they cannot do. Why do they do it? They do it because they are not a party to the organic republic which was established. They are a part of a private corporation called the United States, which was organically incorporated in 1871 under the name District of Columbia.
Okay.
And even before that, which is a whole nother history. See, the northern states, when you get into the Civil War history, the northern states started becoming back under the rulership of Great Britain first. The southern states said, no, we're not dealing with that. We want to remain sovereign. They're teaching back to us in school like as though, oh nah, the southern states wanted to remain with slaves. They wanted to keep slavery going on because it was good for their economy. No, that was a part of it, yes. But at the same time, they also wanted to remain as sovereign states, so they walked out. This is what sparked the Civil War. And of course, the North one bringing everybody right back under the rulership of Great Britain with the Congressional Acts of 1871. Islam.
Islam.
All right, let me get into the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, North America, as well as in Canaanland. The preamble itself, if you really pay attention to the preamble, it tells you who you are in the preamble. But if you don't know who you are, you'll look right by it. Just listen. It says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves, us, and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That's a distinction between two different parties right there.
Right.
We the people would be us, the Moors, the then we gave them this charter so that they can establish a more perfect union outside of what they already had established under that burden for the United States of America. The United States of America would be the Europeans under that burden. You look at the United States Great Seal, it's dual-sided. Only country in the world that has a dual-sided national seal. You have on the obverse side the bird, and on the reverse side the Great Seal Pyramid, which belongs to the Moors. And if you look on the back of the dollar bill, you will see that insignia. You don't even have to look to the dollar bill. You can go right to any almanac and it'll tell you about the obverse side and the reverse side of the United States Great Seal. When you look to the back of the dollar bill, if you look at where the shadow is being cast from the Great Seal Pyramid and flip it upside down, you'll see a circle 7. Noble Drew Ali knew what he was talking about.
Hey.
He came, yes, Islam.
Peace, brother. Not to interrupt you, but I'm a little confused right now with Union States, United States, and United States of America. Because I was researching a few things about United States of America is actually the republic, and United States is actually the corporation. But I also heard United States of America. Anything with the word "of" is also dangerous too. So when I read the preamble, I did get a little confused because I was thinking the same thing when they said "we the people." I was thinking, okay, us Moors. But when it said "of the United States," for a second I thought maybe it's the European readiness. That's when I got kind of confused because I know the United U.S. or the Union States or United States as being a corporation.
Yes, this is prior to the incorporation.
Okay.
They became incorporated in 1871 under the name District of Columbia in conjunction with the 14th Amendment.
Okay.
When the United States of America Republic was established in 1789, that was the republic, that wasn't the democracy. See, the democracy really started in 1871, officially, collectively, for the whole entirety of the United States. They finalized what they started in 1871 in 1933 with President Roosevelt's New Deal democracy. And this is all in conjunction with counteraction against what Noble Drew Ali was doing in 1913. Okay. See, this is a lot of things that when you go to temples, they don't like to get into.
Right.
I like to get into this information. Taj, of course, he likes to get into this information. Grand Sheik Cujo gets into this information. Ali Bey gets into this information. Grand Sheik Nature gets into this information. Pretty much anybody who has a Great Seal background goes into this information. Goes into the actual legal and lawful history of the United States of America as opposed to, what they teach you in school. Things that you can go to the Library of Congress and pull up on the record. You don't even have to go there. You can Google it and pull it right up. But if you really want, authentic records, you can go right to the Library of Congress and get them. When you can find out when the United States of America became a corporation outside of the Republic. And when they officially became a democracy outside of the Republic in 1933 with Delano Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal democracy. And, with House Joint Resolution 192 and the Emergency Bank Act. All of these things was put into place to counteract what Noble Drew Ali started in 1913. Even your Federal Reserve Act, Islam. Even the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. Your Federal Reserve Act, your Trading with the Enemies Act. All these things were counteractions to what Noble Drew Ali was doing from when he established the old Canaanite temple. Because he established the movement as a civic organization to get us back on track with who we are as nationals. You know what I'm saying? It didn't become a religious organization until 1928. And that was even under the auspices of sharing the protections of the First Amendment. Because they continuously counteracted, they even infiltrated the movement. They even hired COINTELPRO operatives to come in and shut the movement down. Some of which are still in operation today. And those are the same ones who criticize Moors who are active, you know I'm saying? The same ones that talk about Cujo, the same ones that talk about me, the same ones that talk about ties, the same ones that talk about nature, the same ones that talk about Aline. You know what I'm saying? These same people that be talking about Moors that are active, they either directly in conjunction with COINTELPRO operatives now, or they are taught by those who were straight up COINTELPRO. Because, I mean, come on now, we come to straight up science. And when you start saying that, oh nah, this the prophet didn't teach this, the prophet didn't teach that. Well, he didn't teach you how to tie your shoes neither, but you still know how to do it. And he didn't teach you how to watch reality TV shows, but you still watch them. Science is science. He called this the Moorish Science Temple, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. So you're supposed to know everything, and you're supposed to go to a temple and be able to learn another language. You know what I'm saying? These temples are supposed to be like the universities in Spain. You're supposed to be able to come there and learn anything you want. Anybody's supposed to be able to come there. Even the Europeans, they should be knocking at the door. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a universal science. It's a universal prophet.
For real.
Yeah, let me ask you this one.
Islam.
Let me ask this question. Back to the preamble.
Yeah.
When it says we the people, which means us, and then of the United States, right? Would the United States also imply a similar jurisdiction like the Organization of American States, like the United States? The United States. When it's mentioned in the United States, right, is the United States as well considered the Americas, like all the different states of the Americas that are united?
Yes, absolutely. Like I was telling the brother earlier, that's when it says we the people of the United States, it ain't talking about the U.S.
Right.
The U.S. didn't come till 1871.
Right.
It's talking about collectively the people from Alaska down to Argentina.
Right.
Which would include all the dominions of a Mexican that Noble Ali came and told us about. This is another thing that we do here. We take chapter 47 and file that. Along with our declaration. We take chapter 47 and attach it to our declaration and file that. Because that's your dominion. Noble Ali already set it up. He let us know what the dominions of a Mexican was. He already set it up so that we can do that. So what we need to do is take chapter 47. This is what I do. Take chapter 47, where it explains the dominions of a Mexican, and file that as public record as well, along with your declaration. We all know that it's Moors, that the whole globe belongs to us. But you know, when you file it, you're just putting them on notice. We already know it's Moors that we Moorish Americans. When you file it, you're just putting them on notice, letting them know. And when you file chapter 47, now when we start getting into obtaining property, we have a rightful claim over that property. We already put them on notice that we are the true heirs to this particular landmass. So when we start wanting to get things low to your title, we already got that on record. Islam, you see what I'm saying? Boom, you get a house, you pay the mortgage on it, whatever, or whether you buy it off a tax claim, tax lien, anything like that. And then you start pushing forth affidavits to the banks or to the city, the state, whoever's claiming that you owe them whatever. Then you put, look, I filed this document, you already been put on notice, the dominions of a Mexican. This land belonged to my forefathers, right? So you cannot tax me. If anything, you owe me money for staying here. This is why. This is why we got to get into the rights of indigenous people. Of course. Very important that we get into the rights of indigenous people. This is why they don't want you to know about that. The more and more we start enforcing the rights of indigenous people, I'm trying to tell you, we can literally tell them it's going to start a war. They're gonna do what they've been doing throughout history, and that is genocide, cultural genocide. They're gonna start trying to wipe us out. You know, we gotta be there. We gotta be willing to fight for it. And also, we need to be in touch, in tune with what our true spirituality is. the same magical principles that they use, the Kabbalistic principles that they use, is what we need to be masters in. Because then we can have it to the point where they can come and do whatever they want. We can combat them without even using weapons. Because this is what they do. And they're masters at it. And this is what Noble came to give us. He came to give us the Kabbalistic principles and the Islamic principles, which are one and the same. This is what Il and Bay represent. The Bay is a representation of the Islamic, the Il is a representation of the Kabbalistic. And they're both one and the same. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that makes them different is the people who are under specific organizations. Those who come under these specific organizations, these specific school of thoughts, might try to make it seem as though, you know, this one is different from that one, and it's not. It's the same thing. A Gnostic, a Mason, a Kabbalist, a Sufi, all deal with the same exact science, which is the principles of the universe, mathematics and geometry, the same thing that we deal with in these temples. In the adept chamber, hopefully, you know what I'm saying? Some adept chambers, I don't know. But, I mean, that's how it's supposed to be in the adept chambers. You're supposed to be dealing with the principles of geometry, mathematics, and science. You know, when you first come in there, you come in there first heaven. You just get the information on its face. This is called belief, faith, and fruition. Once you get the information on its face, then you start actually studying it. Then you start coming up into the adept chamber and getting further information. And that's, you know, that's your faith and then your fruition, when you can take that information and start bringing things into existence. And these are the principles that Noble Drew in his adept chambers laid out. And, you know, these are the things that we go over here in this temple. And, you know, there's a lot of Moors that put this information out there like that. And then you got other Moors that if we sitting there talking about it because, I don't know, they working for somebody, or, you know, they want to keep people subjugated. I don't know exactly what their agenda is. I mean, I have an idea, but, I mean, it's, what we do here is we're going to keep moving forward. We ain't going to let anybody else stagnate us. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to continue to do what my forefathers have been doing. Those before me, I'm going to continue to do what Taj's been doing. I'm going to continue to do what nature been doing. I'm going to continue to do what Arlene been doing. You know what I'm saying? What Sister Ra's been doing. I'm going to continue to do that. You know, and that's what it is. And law, for one, is, I love studying law. I love demonstrating on law because that's like immediate action. You know, there's no arguing over law. We can argue over, you know, spirituality. We can argue over religion and the modern connotation of the word religion. You know, things like that. But I mean, law is documented. All it just takes is for somebody to be able to read it. And most people, when they start presenting arguments of something that, you know, is based and rooted upon, you know, what they've been seeing on TV, I just ask them, well, what do you know about the Constitution? When they start talking about, that sounds good, it sounds good. You know, I start talking about nationality, they start saying, oh yeah, that sounds good, I feel what you're saying. I'm like, you ain't gotta feel what I'm saying, it's not my words. This is what the law says. You know what I'm saying? Do you know law? Do you know anything about the Constitution? And nah, all right, well then we don't have nothing to discuss in this matter. Because I'm talking about constitutional principles. I'm talking about constitutional law. You telling me something based upon a paradigm that you got from the media. The media ain't gonna give you no law. They'll give you some keys, but you still gotta, you know, do your own research on it. Just like I was saying earlier. You know, it's good to watch things on YouTube, stuff like that, with brothers, you know, going in on certain information, certain degrees of information, but at the same time, we have to, you know, take notes and then go back and actually study that. We have to be able to give that same demonstration that that brother gave on YouTube, in other words. Because the brothers that you'll see on YouTube are already scholars. They put time, hours, years, months, and days into studying whatever it is that they're demonstrating on. And it's not our job to take what they've already put into place and just run with it. Because if you do that, I mean, it's going to hit you back in the head. Because when you start putting out documents, and then they start responding back, and then you don't know what to do, and then you be stuck, and you're like, oh, nah, this stuff don't work. But you gotta actually study it. You gotta know, you shouldn't have to come back to the individual and be like, what do I do next? What do I do next? You're supposed to know that initially before you send out any document, what your next step should be. And regardless of what kind of response you get, you're supposed to know exactly where you need to go next. And I keep telling people the same thing all the time. They be like, oh, what do I do next? What do I do next? The same thing you just did, another affidavit. Respond to them with another affidavit. They just respond to you with an affidavit, rebutting yours, respond back to them with an affidavit, rebutting theirs, because theirs holds no merit. You need to know why theirs don't hold no merit. And I'll be trying to tell them it's real simple. If you go through the Constitution, briefly, you don't even have to, I mean, there's certain key points that I just want to touch on the Constitution that everybody needs to know, like the back of their hand. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily knowing how to quote it, but just knowing exactly where it is in the Constitution. So that way, when you do need to put together an affidavit in response to whatever situation, you put that as a reference point in there for one of your points. You get what I'm saying? And these are things, these are keys that we're all supposed to know. So let me get into that real quick, because we're going to be here all night on that United Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. Let me go straight down to Article 1, Section 8, in regards to Internal Revenue Service and taxes. You know, some people, they're like, oh, you sovereign, or I want to be sovereign, or oh, y'all Moorish, y'all ain't got to pay no taxes, things like that. I tell them, I'm like, you sovereign too. The only thing that makes you not be sovereign is when you start getting involved in contracts and relinquishing your rights, relinquishing your status. That's what, I mean, you're born out the womb as a sovereign, especially to this land. This land belongs to you. You are a sovereign in this land. And do you have to pay taxes? No. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Article 6 is the supremacy clause. States that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It says in Article 1, Section 8, that the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and promote the general welfare of the United States, with all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Why is the IRS collecting taxes? Why is the IRS having you listed as being an employee? Now, we think that an employee, in the general use of the word, is somebody who goes to work for somebody, which is incorrect. If you go to the Internal Revenue Code, Section 3401, and look up the definition of employee, it will tell you that an employee is a public officer, somebody who works for the U.S. That's who the Internal Revenue Service is applied to. And you can say that in here.
And just to counteract that over here, what we would be looking to find out the meaning of tax terms, etc., would be the Income Tax Act. So the Income Tax Act would have relative to what the Internal Revenue Code book or whatever has, speaking about the definition of employee, definition of residence, definition of, you know, income and tax, and, you know, their meanings of the words that they use, opposed to, or the connotative meanings opposed to the denotative meanings of the word.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. You gotta know those definitions. What does wages mean? Residence versus domicile. Income tax. Subdivision of the Internal Revenue Code A, B, and C. You get what I'm saying? These are the things that we gotta study in regards to trying to know whether we actually subject to the Internal Revenue Code. The Internal Revenue Code, income tax, is specifically for public officials. It's not for your average. But then you gotta also keep in mind, when they denationalize you, right? When they take away your status, and when they give you that social security number, you technically are a federal employee.
Ward of the state.
Yes, you're a federal employee. You work for the United States government without even lifting a finger. And this is another place that I come in at, because I do taxes for brothers that come home from being incarcerated in prison. They make money just off of your name, off of you being a federal employee. What I do is I get back that person when he comes out of jail. I get him back an income tax return for the last 3 years he was in there, based on minimum wage. So they get about $2,000 for every year. That's $6,000 total. And that's just off of his name, just off of him being in the system as a federal employee. You see how it works? Flesh for cash. When they got you in that system, what they did was they placed the lien on your straw man. And you being surety for that straw man, that's the word you want to study, surety. I've even seen on some people's indictments it says surety on there.
That's right.
You being a surety means you're held responsible for that artificial person. The straw name is an artificial person. It don't exist. It only exists on paper. But they still need somebody to be responsible for that artificial person. Just like if you go to the Internal Revenue Service and establish a business, somebody got to be responsible for that business. They want to see somebody's social security number up there. You establish an LLC, anything, sole proprietor, whatever. They want somebody's social security number up there to be responsible for that business. And this is what they do with the birth certificate and the social security number. They have an actual flesh and blood human being be responsible for the straw man, the 14th Amendment citizen, the artificial person, the juristic person, etc. And when you're a surety, that means you're held responsible for any debt inquired by that straw man. So that means that straw man gets a debt, a ticket, a charge, a felony, a federal charge, anything. That's a debt. That's why they call it a charge. It's a debt. The person who has to pay it can't be the artificial person, because the artificial person don't exist. They need to lien some actual flesh and blood person to satisfy that debt. And this is where your bids come from. This is why the United States got the highest rate per capita, or the highest incarceration rate per capita than any other country in the world. Not because it's a whole bunch of crazy crime going on. That's what backs up the currency. That's how they survive. That's how they eat. And they really survive off of us not knowing this. Now, if you go to the hometown where I'm from, in New Jersey, it's Lakewood, New Jersey. I took a lot of pictures of this stuff. I wish I could, like post them up on this lecture, but I don't really know how to do that. But I took a lot of pictures of, buildings, establishments, things like that, of the Jews, the so-called Jews that's out there in Lakewood, right? They own the whole town. I remember at one point in time, like in the late 80s, they was just over there in one section of the town. Now they own the whole town. They got temples on just about every corner. They got stores, they got their own police force, they got their own ambulances. They only mess with each other. They don't go outside of each other to get bread. They don't go outside of each other to get milk. They go to their own stores to get kosher meat, things like that. They don't even communicate with anyone else. Unless the only way they communicate with anybody else is if you're a customer of theirs. Because they own property out there and you'll be renting property from it. If you rent it anywhere in Lakewood, most likely it's owned by one of those so-called Jews. Their temples are packed. They keep their regalia on all the time. You will not catch them without their regalia on. Yarmulke, beanie, the other similar headdress to a fez. You can tell the rabbis, they got like a furry circle, a furry 360-degree headdress. Those are the things, that's like the elite. When you see them with one of those, that's like the equivalent of wearing a black fez. And there's another thing too, when they see the fez, they be looking at you like, huh? because they expect to see Negroes, blacks, and colors, because that's all it is out there besides, you know, the so-called Jews. But the things that they're doing in Lakewood are the same things that we supposed to be doing, that we supposed to be doing when Noble Drew Ali established the National Divine Movement. This is what we supposed to be doing. They buy, look, everybody, I know jokers that have been living in certain houses out there for years, and all of a sudden, they tear that house down. They already building houses on the outskirts of it, making the property value go up. So the people that already been living there can't pay their mortgage, can't pay property taxes, and now they end up getting the home foreclosed, and the Jews are right there picking that home up when it gets foreclosed, and then they bulldoze it down and build they build their own streets with their own, or our own Hebrew names, Yehudi names. You get what I'm saying? Everything, and I got pictures of all this. They got, I mean, it don't make no sense. It's like everything that we supposed to be doing, they doing right now. And then, you know, I got a lot of brothers and cousins and stuff like that out there that, you know, they'll be mad and angry and pissed when they like, yeah, these Jews buying up this, they doing this, that, and the third. And I'm like, what are you getting mad at them for? You can do the same thing. You ain't gonna be able to accomplish it if you keep on watching Smack DVD all the time. You know what I'm saying? You gotta do what they do. You gotta do the same thing they do. Put the studies in that they put in. They got their own schools and school buses. You know what I'm saying? What do we got?
You got BET.
Yes. Nobody got you like we got you.
You got to buy cars and all that.
We got BET. Black educational terrorism.
And we got chicken and watermelon too.
Yes. You can't go nowhere like that. I mean, we walk around. If I take you to out here, I mean, just the way we be carrying ourselves. You gotta come on. You 40 years old and your pants is coming down. You sagging your pants at 40. It's like, come on, man. Then you wonder why they mess with you.
Of course.
Oh yeah, the police mess with me. This, that, and the third. Look at you.
Yeah.
You walking around smoking a black and mild, champing a black and mild, and pants falling all off your ass, and you wondering why they messing with you.
Of course.
Look at you. Look at them. Look at how they carry themselves, and look how you carry yourself. Okay, look how you carry yourself. They don't go up in no Jewish neighborhood at all unless unless you go up in there. You go up in there, they come up in there to get you. They don't go up in there at all. I mean, them Jews could be doing all types of stuff. Like, they not even concerned with them, just based upon the way that they carry themselves. They always keep their guards on. They always got suit, black suit, tie, and their headdress. Women and everything. And I mean, they'll even be walking around with a Torah in their hand. Sure. You know what I'm saying? They break every single traffic code you can think of. They'll pull right out in front of you, cut you off. They don't have no licenses. They just drop. They just get in and travel. They don't get pulled over there, break every single traffic code you can think of right in front of the police. Police ain't gonna pull them over. Because they've been exercising that which what we had supposed to have been exercising since 1913. Well, I ain't even gonna say 1913, I'm gonna say since 1928. Because the Moors was exercising these things during the time of Noble Drew Ali. When he passed form, that's when things started getting crazy. That's when people started concealing bodies of information, you know, making this whole thing seem as though it's some mystery god belief system form of worship. And I mean, it is spiritual. It's spiritual as well as you need both. That's the balance of the universe. You know what I'm saying? You need to know the spiritual side or the religious side, and that's in the denotative form of the word religion, and the national side as well. You gotta know them both. You gotta use them both. That's another thing I be telling people that just want to exercise law. I'm like, man, look, the reason why you're getting on, you're coming across all of these problems when you're trying to exercise this, that, and the third, you gotta get into your spiritual side as well.
That's good.
It's a balance. I be sitting there like, how come I don't never have these problems? You know, and this is the reason. Because I'm in tune, not with just the law, but I'm also in tune with spirituality. It's a balance. You have to have them both. That's just how the universe works.
The religious part is important too. You know, it's actually very important because we all have to acknowledge that it's a theocratic government, right? Which our laws are based on religion, laws are based on the laws from the divine God. You know, so when we get pulled over by public servants or whatnot, we put them on notice about that. You know? That's key.
Absolutely.
That's key.
Absolutely. You definitely get it. And they know already. When they see you and your mannerism, they know whether you're balanced or not.
True.
When you start presenting certain bodies of information, they can tell whether you're balanced or not. They can tell whether you're dealing with law and you're dealing with spirituality. They know that. These cats is masters. They've been masters for a long time. You go in front of that magi, that magistrate, come on, man. You going in front of a shrine. He got fans too. Sometimes he get pissed off at you when you come in there with one because he wear his in secret. And he don't want to see you wear yours in open. Sometimes he'll look at you and be like, oh, all right, he woke up. You know what I'm saying? That goes all the way back to the history of, you know, the Moors in the European Order of Knights Templar, you know, in the Crusades, the various different wars that we had going on with them. Just like Noble Ali says, what our ancient forefathers were, we are today without a doubt of contradiction. What their forefathers were, they are today without a doubt of contradiction too. Some of them was against us. Some of them was right with us. So you can walk into certain jurisdictions, just like I was saying earlier, when I walked in there, I already knew I was coming around a bunch of Masons. So I said, I'm just going to go in there Masonically.
Masoned up.
And, you know, I ain't going there with no fez on, no dashiki on, which I usually do. I go in there like that. I just went in there with black pants and a white button-up shirt. Showed him the light. He seen it. He said, oh, you want to die? And mind you, he was talking crazy to me at first. Once I showed him the ring, he said, oh, you in the square. Boom. And I told him, he asked me where I hailed from. I told him. He said, all right, don't even worry about this. He dismissed it. I didn't even see the judge. I don't even know what she looked like. I took the paper up there to the clerk of that thing, you know what was going on. They was like, we don't understand this. What's going on? He dismissed it. It's like, oh, all right. But yeah,
I'm taking
that's the spirituality. That right there is spirituality. And they'll recognize that. You know what I'm saying? They'll recognize it in your mannerisms. You know what I'm saying? How I went up in there with pants falling all over my ass, and you know what I'm saying? Black and mild in my ear. They'd been looking at me like, oh yeah, just go in there, take this to the judge. He might drop this down, she might drop that down.
You should have kept your headphones on. Walking there with some headphones on.
Yeah, you might as well, shoot.
Holy shit. For real.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's how I gotta work. You know, you gotta have both sides. You gotta study both sides. And this is why up here we teach on Wednesdays astrology classes, and then on Thursdays law classes. And then, you know, we got to Friday Holy Day meeting and then Sunday school, and then on Monday is Quran study. And you know that the reason why is because that's the balance right there. Learning the spiritual aspect of astrology. It's not just studying the zodiac. It's also studying the zodiac within yourself as well. You know, getting in tune with all the ancient Eastern practices of our forefathers, and then also, you know, dealing with law. Because, you know, it's dual sides. You gotta, you know, deal with both. Because that's the nature and principle of the universe. The universe it has a balance to it. This is what Maya is. This is what that justice scale is on the Constitution. Or on, you know, on any state constitution for that matter. You know what I'm saying? That's what Lady Justice represents, as long as it's balanced. When it's tipped over, if you know you're dealing with democracy, you know you're dealing with color of law, you ain't dealing with constitutional law, you ain't dealing with the principles of the universe. And all these judges, so-called judges, they all know this. The bodies of information that we go over in temple meetings and things like that, they're well aware of that. They just bound by open obligation not to say nothing.
Exactly. They sitting there acting like they don't know. That's what they do.
Oh yeah.
You know?
They even ask you to take your hat off when you come in there sometimes.
Yeah.
You go in there with a fez on, sometimes they say, can you take that hat off? He know that's a fez, he got one.
I've gotten that too. Yeah.
And the bailiff might even come run up on you and say, can you take your hat off? He know that's a fez, trust me, he know. Just about every police enforcer, policy enforcer that you come across is under the studies of Freemasonry. If they're not under the studies of Freemasonry, they associated with others that are, and they know, a great deal of information about it. Just about all of them.
I've been noticing. I've been noticing a lot of police officers really don't know shit.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, you mean in regard to law?
In regards to law, they don't know shit.
Oh yeah, yeah, they don't know nothing about law. They don't even know nothing about. They don't even know nothing about the Freemasonic degrees they do.
Exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like in Freemasonry, they'll come into the order, right? Learn guards, learn grips, passwords, buy degrees and things like that, so that way they can be recognized globally as a Freemason to obtain all the benefits of, let's just say I was under the Scottish Rite Order of Freemasonry and I went to Canada, I would have a brother down there that would give me somewhere to stay. You know what I'm saying? This is how it works. That's how they network in the European orders of Freemasonry. They network just like that. And so consequently, people that, become a part of the order, that's all they want. It's just the networking. They don't even care about, what the degrees actually mean, what they represent.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, boom, you have a lot of police officers, they don't know that are acquitted. They don't know law. They definitely don't be knowing, the degrees. They don't know what the degrees mean. They go through rituals and stuff like that and have no clue what it means. And they don't even care. Now, don't get me wrong, some of them do.
Right.
Some of them are studious. Some of them study. Some of them are scholars. Some of them know the true nature of the rituals that they go through. And, some of them know that, we the true descendants of the ancient Moabites. We are the true Asiatics. Some of them know that. Some of them don't. Some of them know and can't tell you. And won't tell you. But you can still, even when you're really on point, you can get information out of them.
Of course.
All you gotta do is know their grips, know their passwords, and know their guards. And you can get them to spill their guts on anything.
For sure. Because when you're on the science, that's when they actually feel you.
Yeah.
If they're on the science and you're on the science, they're actually more proud to see you in your right person, in your proper person. When they're on the science. But,
yeah, just like I was saying, like some of them was with us during the Crusades. Some of them wasn't. That's where they learned the principles that they learned from, as far as banking, how to build cathedrals using the science of sacred geometry, how to harness certain energies of the universe by utilizing certain geometrical shapes and patterns in their cathedral structures. You know what I'm saying? They learned all these principles from the Sufis or the assassins. These were Moors in Temple Mount, or King Solomon's Temple, which is what, the European Order of Freemasonry is built on, which is esoteric science as well. Solomon, it just means sun, or soul of man. Soul is sun in Latin, is sun in Sanskrit, and is sun in the ancient Kemetic language. That's sun, sun, sun. That's what King Solomon's temple is. And
it's not really that big of a deal though, but I was just adding to what you were saying about how with masonry, right? They got most of their understanding from basically.
Can you come up?
Yeah, I was just saying that with masonry, on the terms of masonry that we're speaking on this, I was just saying that how a lot of the stuff, a lot of the knowledge and stuff and practice, right, has been it is something that was been carrying on before even the word Freemasonry, because I'm sure at one point in time they had an understanding you know, men had an understanding amongst one another, this is how we're going to do certain things, right? So, by way of that, it's just, you know, that's just what I was adding into. I wasn't saying nothing major, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. The term Freemason is that's relatively new. But the science and the principles and even the degrees are ancient. Even, I mean, before they went under the name Freemasonry, they went under the name Poor Order of the Knights of Christ. Right? From Poor Orders of the Knights of Christ evolved the Knights Templar and the Priory of Sion. These are the same Europeans who led the first crusade against the Moors in 1099 AD. Now, mind you, this was not called Freemasonry then. This was the ancient Egyptian mystery school system science that they learned from the Moors when they sacked Temple Mount. The sciences and the principles that was given to them Europeans, when they brought it back to Europe, the Pope deemed them untouchable by anybody. They only had to answer to the Pope, they had to answer to no kings. Consequently, that order became so big, so huge, they started dealing with banking, like the way the modern day checking system would run. They started, you know, building cathedrals using sacred geometry. They started using, you know, stonemason principles of building things, being able to harness certain energies, all of these things that they was taught for those 9 years they spent in Temple Mount, or Solomon's Temple.
This is just a question. A thought came to mind. What if the Egyptians back then, the ancient Mitzrayim, they actually had animal heads? Because they had a mystery system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to put two and two together with the mystery system and saying, okay, well, you know, perhaps the whole part of the mystery was that they would wear the mask. But what if the mask was actually their real head? And it wasn't a mask. And it was really like, you know, part of their mystery school system.
Yeah, hey, that's a possibility. Ain't nothing impossible. I can't prove it, but there ain't nothing impossible, especially when it comes to, you know, dealing with extraterrestrial sciences. I see that's what you're trying to get when you say that. Is that what you're trying to touch on when you say that?
No, not really. I don't really know much about extraterrestrials. I've yet to see one for myself, so, but I was just saying with the mystery system, right, there's a lot of meaning behind. We can dive into a lot of meaning behind, you know, the...
yeah, I mean, we get extraterrestrials. We the masters of the universe. When you get into the Dogon, I don't know if you're familiar with the Dogon, but the Dogon of Mali, which is in West Africa, they claim descent. These are our forefathers. These are the Moroccans. They claim descent from the Sirius star system, the Sirius star constellation, or not constellation, the Sirius star system, Sirius A, B, and C. You got the main sun, which is Sirius A, and then you got B and C, which orbit it, and they both take 50 years apiece to orbit it. And the Dogon, they had advanced knowledge about the orbital system of the Sirius star system. Way before the European was able to have a telescope that could see that far. They gave them detailed information about that. And then when the European was able to make a telescope that could see that far, they came back to the Dogon and asked them, how did they know that? And the Dogon told them, that's where we're from. You understand? Even the Baphomet insignia that the Templars, the Knights Templars, this is the origin of Freemasonry, the origin of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, Knights Templar, Europeans. Even them, they was charged with, when their order was suppressed in 1307, they were charged with worshiping Baphomet, the goat-headed You know what I'm talking about? It look like gold.
Yeah. But that right there is not really, you know, Baphomet. That's actually Amun-Ra. That's a symbol of Amun-Ra. And today we still worship on Amun-Ra.
Listen. I know. I'm well aware of that. That is a representation of Sirius.
Okay.
The Sirius star system. Yes, which is Ra. Which is your Ra. Which is where you get Allah from. Absolutely right. You notice in the Moorish Science Temple, the seat in the north is unoccupied. Same thing in the Masonic Lodge. The seat in the north is unoccupied. That's that Sirius star system. That Sirius star system is a representation of that seat in the north.
That's interesting information.
Absolutely. Even the Europeans, in their so-called Illuminati, they'll get together and harness that energy from Sirius every July 23rd. Every July 23rd, they'll meet at a place called Bohemian Grove and harness that energy in rituals. July 23rd, Sirius star system, the sun and the earth are all in alignment with each other. And you also are in Leo of the Zodiac. They harness all of that energy on that day, right underneath a 40-foot owl. Same owl that you'll see on your dollar bill in the top right-hand corner. They know your science. They use your science. They'll tell you that your science is devil worship so that they can use it against you. We can't be running from masonry. We can't be running from magic. We can't be running from voodoo. We can't be running from Santeria. We can't be running from witchcraft, all of these things. Witchcraft, voodoo, Santeria, all of these things are one and the same thing, just in different languages. By different cultures, and it's the same principles of the universe. They ain't got nothing to do with worshiping no devil. This is what the European tell you. The European tell you, oh yeah, that's devil worship. Don't mess with that. Stay away from that. But at the same time, he practices that in secret. And he uses that in music. I mean, science is so deep, it don't make no sense. It makes all the sense in the world, but I mean, it's like baffling. The extreme measures that they go to keep certain things concealed from us, and then at the same time, represent a whole nother body of information back to us while they practice something completely different.
All right. Not to really sway off topic, right? But I'm gonna stick with the Moorish Science Temple, you know, kind of doctrine. And I just wanted to know, you know, like, at what point, still, because I have to reiterate my question, right? At what point would we have to basically merge the financial and the social aspect? I know you said now, but the people aren't ready now. Real talk. They really aren't ready, and they are not on board with the same boat, and we're not going in the same direction.
All right, let me tell you what I want to do in my place, in my position in this movement. Right now, I'm attempting to get, because right now I have a subordinate temple, and I'm attempting to get a charter to the point where I can issue charters myself. And when I issue charters myself, this is exactly what I want to get into. I want to get into issuing the charters, and then everybody who is under the umbrella of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science must pay, like, you know, small dues like $30 a month, every month. And but before we even start paying that, we have to have a goal set. The goal would be set to buy certain properties, you know, certain land masses, anything like that, something of that nature. You know, we find something, set the goal, and then we just keep on every month. I mean, that's $30 is something like, you get that just from temple member dues. And then we put all that money into a joint account. You know, have 3 people on it, and unless those 3 people are there, or the heirs of those 3 people, you know, just in case something happens, then you can't nobody touch it. once we get to the point where, you know, I mean, let's just say we got 20 temples. After 2 years of everybody doing that, all 20 temples, I mean, we could do the same thing that the Jews that I was speaking about earlier in Lakewood are doing. We can start buying up land masses out in certain towns and you know, get people to move out, forcing people to move out, and then us moving in, and then we start establishing our own communities in there. This is where I'm trying to go with it. And I mean, this is where it starts at. It starts right here.
Do you think that we can have like a fair share with certain things like buildings that's already been, you know, it's already there? We can utilize those things, certain things that's already been created. Do you think we can utilize those things that are already been created?
Yeah.
And our rights still won't be infringed upon?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we need to do. Like, for example, like even when we, you know, start generating the finance like that, to be able to bring everything together economically and start really dealing with growth and development economically, what we can do is start going down and buying homes that are being foreclosed on. Now, I don't want to do this in Asiatic communities because I don't want to be, you know, put my own brothers and sisters out of their house and home. I'd rather go to where the foreigners at and claiming back that which rightfully belongs to us. When I say foreigners, I'm talking about Europeans.
For real, because
I'm not talking about Mexicans because they're not foreigners. They're indigenous here too.
I agree.
I'm talking about the pale skinned nations of Europe.
I agree.
I'm talking about going into their communities and doing the same thing that they're doing in our communities.
I totally agree with you with that, bro. And that's the direction that I want to see, because I just don't want to see the movement just be about, you know, history, dialogues, you know, law, because it's much more than that, right?
Yeah,
I'm trying to diversify the whole, you know, knowledge, the whole doctrine, because this is supposed to be it's supposed to be actually a way of life for us. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's where it's. That's the whole purpose of the movement. If you ever read the Divine One, you tell you right in there. That's the whole purpose of the movement.
All right.
You know, that the movement has been distorted and flipped around to something else. But I mean, the whole purpose of the movement is for us to get back in tune with who we are spiritually and take back the land that belongs to us. So we need to get it together on the spiritual and political level and start taking back land that rightfully belongs to us. That's the whole purpose of the Moorish Divine National Movement.
All right, there's a lot more. This is a good segue to start the rights of Indigenous.
Okay, all right. You want to take an intermission?
No, we're going straight. We don't do that over here.
All right, let me get into this.
We got
we'll be here all night.
Yeah, because we got about 40 minutes or so, right?
Okay.
And then
right.
What we can do is we'll just set up and run a part 2. But we're gonna have to do that anyways.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
anytime.
All right.
Yeah, anytime. All right, rights of Indigenous people. I'm just going to point out certain articles in the rights of Indigenous people and apply to what us Moors have been doing and have been attempting to do, and what we need to do in order to make these things more effective in regards to utilizing the rights of Indigenous people. Islam. Article 1 says Indigenous people have the right to full enjoyment as a collective or as individuals of all human rights and fundamental freedoms as recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and international human rights law. We need to know that. We need to get in tune also with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 2, Indigenous people and individuals are free and equal to all other peoples and individuals and have the right to be free from any kind of discrimination in the exercise of their rights, in particular that based on their indigenous origin or identity. So when you come across a policy enforcement and he tells you that identity that you're using, that nationality card that you're using is false and incorrect, it's fraudulent. No. You point this out to them. This is the supreme law of the land right here as well. Now, in the Constitution, this right here is an international treaty. Because the Constitution in Article 6 makes treaties the supreme law of the land. Once the United States entered into this agreement, even though it's called a declaration, it's still an international treaty. And once they entered into that agreement, that makes this the supreme law of the land. So you can make up whatever identification you want to make up, and it ain't got nothing to do with the U.S., and you got to be specific when you tell them that. You don't want to make them be under the impression that you're trying to give them a U.S. document, a U.S. ID. You got to let them know that this is non-U.S. This belongs to a sovereign nation of indigenous people. And this is what's going to keep you in check. Article 2, and not just Article 2, also Article 33. We're going to get down the line, and it'll start repeating itself as we go down the line. Article 3, indigenous people have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. All right, let's just go back on that real quick. It says, by virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status. That means if you are already indigenous to this land, you can determine what your political status is. Does that mean that you need to go to a court and have them authenticate what your political status is? Absolutely not. Like I was saying earlier, when you go to a court, all you're doing is just putting them on notice. You make the determination what your political status is based upon your heritage. And all of this information is the information that's been passed down from our forefathers. They try to conceal. Islam. Article 4. Indigenous people, in the exercise of their right to self-determination, have the right to autonomy or self-government in matters relating to their internal and local affairs, as well as ways and means for financing their autonomous functions. Now that right there is a very deep article. When we ride around on Moorish tags, when we travel around with the right to travel cards, this right here backs that up. It says right here that we have the right to self-determination and the right to autonomy or self-government. Does the government, even though they operate as a corporation, do they not make their own tags? Do they not make their own identification cards or driver's licenses? So now us as indigenous people establishing our own government, why do we not have the right to do the same thing? They'll try to pull you over and give you a charge for driving around with a fictitious plate. You gotta make sure you specify on that plate, this is not a U.S. plate. Tell them that. I mean, don't even put no U.S. flag on it. Put your Moroccan flag on it, put the Continental flag on it. Put your Circle 7 on there. Put your Great Seal on there. Don't put no banner on there, no stars and stripes. Do you get what I'm saying? This is how you move and operate as a sovereign nation. It's just like, if, let's just say I drove from Canada, I got a vehicle registered in Canada, or let's just say Mexico, because you know Canada and the United States share the same charter. So let's just say Mexico. Let's say I drove up from Mexico into the United States so-called territory. I got a Mexican tag on. How can a police officer, now this mind, this tag is registered in Mexico, a whole other country. How can a police officer give me a charge for a fictitious tag? I'm not making no claims that any registration or insurance is for the U.S. And this is how you gotta come when if you decide to travel on a right to travel plate or the right to travel card. And I've traveled on both of them. And I mean, I've had a lot more successes than I did failures. Traveling on the right to travel, the right to travel alone. When you know how to defend it, and you get pulled over and show you a right to travel card, 9 times out of 10 you'll pull off. Sometimes you'll come across that 1 in a million policy enforcer that, you know, he or she might just want to, you know, be a-hole, whatever you want to call them, and just say, oh, nah, we don't acknowledge this, that, and the third. But you can still even hold them to, you got to be sharp. You can hold them to acknowledging that particular card. And then also at the same time, you got to speak to them in a nice tone. Like, you get pulled over, harassed, or anything of that nature. One thing I have noticed, and you know, these things happen to me all the time, but you know, 9 times out of 10 I pull off, no problem. And you know, you get pulled over and you want to utilize the right to travel, whether you got a tag on the back or whether you just utilizing the right to travel card. You get pulled over, you don't want to start, you know, coming at the policy enforcement. Like, where's your delegation order of authority? You don't want to do that. Because then he already got an ego in his head. For one, he's a cop. For two, he's probably a master mason. So he already think he on top of the world. And then for you to just pull up and say stuff like that, he automatically, his ego kicks in. And then he's trying to do everything he can to make your life a living hell. But I mean, you can defend that later on in the whole situation, but you can prevent it just by talking to him in a nice manner. You can explain to him what your right to travel is and what the law is, and I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, you'll pull right off, probably with no ticket or nothing. And you know, this is how you got to interface with it. This is why I said it's good to watch certain things on YouTube, but we have to actually study what we be watching on YouTube. We see people, you know, go in, you know, to magistrates and go into, you know, policy enforcers and be real radical. And that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to talk to them in a civilized way. We Moorish, we civilized people. We're the mothers and fathers of civilization. So even if they coming at you in an uncivilized manner, you still speak to them in a civilized manner. Then they ain't got no choice but to acknowledge, okay, all right, boom. Just slow down. I got pulled once before, and I said, look, I don't use no license, I just use this right to travel. And, you know, he looked at it late night, and he said, all right, just slow down. He took it back to the car, looked at it, came back, he said, all right, just slow down. I said, all right, no problem. So I'm just gonna give you a warning. That ain't the first time that happened. I got pulled over another time. I was trying to turn around. And as I was trying to turn around, the policy enforcer pulls up behind me, and you know, he runs down thinking I was a Negro, and I had a bunch of Negroes in the car. So he walked right past. My wife was sitting in the passenger seat. My best friend, he was sitting in the back seat, and I showed him my right to travel card. And then he asked my best friend for his ID, like, what did you even need to ask him for that for? And I'm the one traveling. But he, you know, he gave it to him, and he came back. He said, all right, well, look, if you're trying to turn around, there's a little cut spot right there that you can back into, and then you can get back around that way. No questions asked. He even asked no questions. And that's all because I spoke to him in a nice manner. Now, had I started coming at their neck, coming at their head, which I can do, but that ain't what you know will cause problems. You know what I'm saying? Had I started coming at their head like that, then they would have started, they would call back up. Yeah, we got this, that, and the third. We just got this memo about these Moors, this, that, and the third. Nah, I'm coming at them in a nice tone, just like Dr. Ali said. Go to those that know law. Speak to them in a nice tone, and you'll get a favorable reply. And that's how you got to address the policy enforcers whenever you start talking to them about, you know, regards to right to travel or anything for that matter. They can just be, you know, harassing one of your family members or something, and you know, for domestic disputes or whatever, anything like that. You just start talking to them in a nice tone, and I guarantee you they'll leave you alone. So far as I've been doing that, I've been having a lot of success.
I don't feel that.
Islam,
What's up?
Article 5.
Oh, what's up, Mark?
Yeah.
Islam.
So I don't feel that.
Come on.
What, talking to them in a respectful tone?
No.
You got it sometimes, though.
True.
Who's the servant here? Who's the master?
Peace,
That
man.
doesn't mean that you're.
So you have to be disrespectful.
Yeah, you know what?
He's being disrespectful.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't totally feel it though.
How many times?
And the reason why I'm saying that
It's not his job.
is that
He got
for the public servant,
for all these years.
you know,
He got
to actually approach me, he's approaching a God on this land. Is how I feel, and it's what I am. And I understand and understand what you're saying about avoiding confrontation, right? Understand about avoiding confrontation with them, but right now at this point, and maybe there's something I gotta learn too, but I don't really give a fuck at this point. because you know, like, I can do that on a regular basis, you know? Being a commercial citizen and just be polite with them and whatnot. And I don't mind doing that because you're right. Love, truth, peace, freedom for everybody, all cultures, all nations. It's true. What I have a problem with is when they approach me and they approach me for nothing. And then they may come hostile or they may come in a vulgar manner or whatnot. I'm not gonna sit back. That's just me. I'm just saying. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If they come at you, then hey, by all means, then get radical. But initially, this is, I mean, it's just my suggestion. This is what I've been using, and it's been effective. You know what I'm saying? Initially, just you know, come at them in a nice tone, and then some of them will blow their mind. Like they'll already be expecting you to come at them, you know, radically.
True. True.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They'll already be expecting it, especially if you got the feds on, because they were starting to get memos about Moors. And, you know, the memos that they've been getting about Moors haven't been good ones.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? They've been getting memos about Moors in regards to, you know, some of us radical Moors that have been, you know, punching them in their face, shooting at them and stuff like that. They ain't getting no memos about positive Moors.
Part of my cousins.
Yeah, they get memos about even then if they see sovereign on your paperwork. You know what I'm saying? They get memos about the sovereignty groups, the European sovereignty groups that be shooting at the police and stuff like that. So then they automatically be on alert. But when you just explain to them who you are, and they still try to violate, then hey, by all means, get radical.
Okay. I feel that.
I explain to them who I am from the get-go, and I tell them in a nice tone. Exactly. I don't just come, who are you? I don't do all that. I already know who he is.
Right.
I don't need him to tell me that. He ain't gonna tell me anyway. So I just tell him who I am.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, I can see where it's gonna go. If it's gonna go to the point where you want to be that side of the nice temper that was against us, I'll be that assassin more. I
almost feel like I just want to put them all on notice that you shouldn't even be talking to me. That's how I feel. Like, you shouldn't be fucking approaching me like, who the fuck are you?
We need to get it to that point.
That's what
we
I'm
need
saying.
to all be traveling on tags to the point where then when they see that tag, don't even mess with them.
Exactly.
Because like I was saying about the Jews earlier, that's how they are. They ride around on regular DMV tags, but they violate every traffic code you can think of. They will not pull them over at all. They'll run red lights with stop signs. They'll pull out in the middle of the road to make a turn right in front of the police. They won't get pulled over.
Fuck these niggas. That's what I'm saying. Fuck these niggas. Fuck them, yo.
They cut the police off, everything. You know what I'm saying? They'll cut you off. They'll damn near run you over. They don't care. They don't mess with them. Because they already got situated what we supposed to have situated. We supposed to be riding around on tags, all of us. To the point where if they see us with that tag on, they ain't even supposed to look in our direction. And collectively, we got to get together and start suing them. You know what I'm saying? In unit for every time they pull one of us over. No matter whether they give us a ticket or not, just start suing them. I mean, we got to do this thing from state to state. So that way, whenever they see that tag, they already know what it is.
More, just to talk on this, because a lot of the, I know you're gonna eventually get there, right?
Back in the 90s.
But Article 6, and the fact that all this stuff that we're talking about means nothing if you're approaching with a black state of mind or a black status. And the idea that, you know, proclamation of our nationality is not just correcting our political status, but it's also correcting our spiritual status and our mental mindset, so we don't fly off the handle just because, you know, of past experiences of dealing with them. But majority of us have that past experience, which gives us that you know, that radical position that we want to take, especially knowing that, you know, well, we're following the law and you still want to violate type of perspective. You know what I mean? So if you can go to that part, skip to the nationality part in the Declaration and tie that in with the divine warning and Noble Juali saying, you know, because we already dissed the prophet. That's why we're in the situation that we're in. So we might not want to go against talking to them in an intelligent tone, because prophets say do that.
I just got into that, like, you wasn't here. I just was dealing with the brother about about a good 20 minutes ago. Okay. I was explaining to him, you stepped out. I was explaining to him that this is the Moorish divine and national movement. It's dual-sided. You have to have that balance. The universe is balance. So you can't just study law and say, oh, forget spirituality. You have to have spirituality and you have to have law. Because law is nothing but written spirituality. The hierarchy of law is natural law, which is the law of the universe. From that you get common law, which is where you get your constitutions from. And then from that you get commercial law, which is where you get your statutory law from. You have to have that balance. You have to be in tune with your spiritual side. This is why we have the classes for astrology, which is really it's a spiritual class on Wednesday, and we have the law classes on Thursday. Because you have to have that balance. You can't just say, I just want to study astrology, I don't want to study law. You can't say, I just want to study law, I don't want to study astrology, I don't want to get into no spirituality. You have to study both. And when you start studying both and dealing with both and living both, because it's more than just studying, you have to actually live this. A lot of these problems that we be having, you will not have no more. Even when you come across the policy enforcement, they can tell by your mannerisms who you really are. And you will get to who you are when you tap in tune with your true spirituality. What is our true spirituality? Our true spirituality are all of the Eastern practices that we look at and laugh. Yoga. That's how you harness the holy breath. That's how you direct the holy breath by utilizing certain stretch breathing techniques. This is true spirituality. This is what true religion is. The study of the planets and how they have effect on what takes place here on Earth. Because the 7 planets, the 7 major ruling planets also exist within yourself as well. This is, like I said earlier, is where your ex-alpha come from. These are the principles that we have to get into when we study law. We can't just get on YouTube and watch you know, somebody demonstrating on law and then just dismiss everything else outside of law. We still got that, like the Grand Sheik was just saying, that black mentality, but we trying to enforce law. Even though we corrected our status as Moorish American, we still walking around with the black mentality. We can't do that. We gotta walk around with the Moorish mentality. Just like those Jews that's in Lakewood, like I was telling you about earlier, they walk around, you don't see them with their pants sagging. They walk around in their regalia all day. They don't have all these problems we have. As a matter of fact, they live great. They got their own schools, they got their own buses, they got their own ambulance. They even teach their kids to stay away from you. Their kids don't watch BET. Their kids probably don't watch MTV either. When they grow up, they already got positions within their society. And through their society, they are taking over this landmass and that landmass. But at the same time, they're not just doing it through, you know, studying commercial law. They are very, very, very spiritual. As a matter of fact, they're using all of our spiritual sciences to be able to do what they're doing. They are straight up Kabbalists. which is our spiritual science, which is what we need to get in tune with. We need to know, and we need to master Kabbalism, the Kabbalah. The Europeans might tell you stay away from it.
Hey,
Islam.
Peace, bro. Peace, bro. With the Kabbalah too, I heard there's like a foundation of homosexuality in that. I could be wrong, like I don't know, but I just heard that there's a form. Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's our ancient science, the Kabbalah. Now, what these Europeans do with it is what they do with it. You get what I'm saying? They take our ancient sciences and twist them around into other things.
Okay.
But we have our ancient sciences that we gave them. You gotta keep in mind that these Europeans ain't creating nothing. They make it seem as though they created things. They ain't creating nothing. I don't know anything they created. Every single thing they claim to have created, they learned from a Moor. Everything. From inventions of technology to law and government, they learned from a Moor somewhere. They got a blueprint. They got a Moorish blueprint from somewhere to be able to do anything that they do in the law and government now. This is why, till this day, they can't build no structures like we build as so-called primitive people. We wasn't primitive, they were. We were already advanced. We gave them a blueprint. They took it and ran with it. Okay. You get what I'm saying? So when they take certain practices like Kabbalah or Freemasonry and convert it into something else, which, you have homosexuality rituals and things like that taking place, that's not what we gave them. That's what they converted it into. Okay. We gave them science when we gave them the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is nothing but the tree of life from ancient Canaan. Actually, Ali gave us the Kabbalah as well. This is why he utilized Elohim. That's an ancient Yehudi word, meaning plural gods, or the 7 eyes of Allah. It's the same, it's one and the same. The Islamic culture and the Yehudi culture are the same exact culture. And the elite of these two cultures know this.
What is the Yehudi?
The followers are the ones who don't. They think that Jehovah is one God, or Yahweh is one God, and then Allah is a whole other God. And they both the same principle energy. When you're dealing with the elite sciences of that, you're dealing with straight up mathematics and how the universe actually works. There ain't no room for no God and devil. God and devil only exist within man. Prophet Noble says that in he put that in the Surah 7 Quran as well. God and devil only exist within man. It cannot exist without man. Man must be present for God and devil to be present. Because it's nothing but the higher self and the lower self. And what these Europeans do is they take all of our ancient sciences and convert it into something completely different outside of what we gave to them from the get-go. Which is where, if you heard about somebody who are dealing with the Kabbalah, homosexuality and stuff like that, this is something that they took it out of context. They twisted it around. Same thing they did with Freemasonry. And even Freemasonry is frowned upon by a lot of people because of what they did. But it's our ancient science. Islam. All right, where was we at? Article 6. Of course, every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. Article 7. You also find that same thing in the Universal Declaration of Rights Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You'll find that in Article 15, Section 1 and 2. Every individual has a right to a nationality, and no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his right to change his nationality. So, if you want to change your nationality, go for it.
And rights of a child too.
Islam.
And rights of a child as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And Article 7. Indigenous individuals have the rights to life, physical and mental integrity, liberty and security of the person. Security of the person, what is that? That's your right to bear arms. You want to go get a strap? You want to go get a K? That's security of the person. Get one, because they got them. Not that you need one to, you know, try to shoot off one of your brothers and sisters, but man, listen, get one, strap up, because they ain't telling what they might do. When Adolf Hitler seized the Jews in Nazi Germany, I mean, that was unexpected. They thought they was already, you know, they thought things were sweet, and then boom, automatically. It went from sugar to shit. Same thing can happen right here. So I say yes, clip up, security of the person.
I feel you.
Felony or not, it's also in your Second Amendment of the Constitution. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. An infringement would be them saying you need a permit to carry one. The only people that need permits are those who ain't nationals.
Hello?
That document is of the Republic. When they start making statutes and codes, that's not of the Republic. That's of the democracy. That's of the corporation called U.S. Islam.
Islam.
Hey. Part 2 of Article 7. Pardon me. Indigenous people have the collective right. This right here gets into DIFUS. I don't know what they call DIFUS. Do y'all got DIFUS in Canaanland?
Nah. Nah.
Like when the people take your children, what state agency is it?
Children
If you beat your children or something like that,
Yeah, children
they prime your children.
Yeah,
It's called Children's Aid.
Children's Aid.
It's called Children's Aid.
Children's Aid.
Okay. Like in New Jersey, it's called DIFUS.
Okay.
Now, this is where you would use, in that particular situation, you would use Article 7, Section 2 of the rights of indigenous people in a situation like that when they come and try to take your kids away for whatever reason they're trying to take them away for. It says indigenous people have the collective right to live in freedom, peace, and security as distinct peoples and shall not be subjected to any act of genocide or any other act of violence, including forcibly removing children of the group to another group. So whenever they come in talking about something, oh yeah, this, that, and the third, we need to take your kid for this, that, and the third, you slap them in the face with that. You slap that judge in the face with your Declaration of Nationality, let them know who you are, and that you are a party to this document, because if you're not a national, you're not saying that you're indigenous if you're not a national, but you proclaim your nationality, you're saying you're indigenous. So that makes you a party to this document. You utilize this document in that particular situation. Islam, Article 8, indigenous people and individuals have the right not to be forced or not to be subjected to forced assimilation or destruction of their culture. This is what they do in George Washington Masonic Museum when they keep on hiding stuff in there. Eventually, they're going to take out the brother with the turban on that comes from the mystic order of the veil. It's an order from 1890. It's called Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm. This is a rivalry order of the Shriners. And the insignia is a Moabite with a fez on. I'm not a fez, pardon me, with a turban on. Now, eventually they're probably going to take that out, I'm sure. But this would be in conjunction with Article 8 or, just burial sites, anything like that of our forefathers, or even if we want to start, if we want to come up with our own funeral services, our own cemeteries, and start burying our people in our own customs and our own traditional ancient customs, we have the right to do that. This don't give us the right to do that, but it just protects that existing right which we have to do that. And so that's one of the many articles in here that you would use to be able to do that. All right, let me skip down to Article 9. It says, indigenous people and individuals have the right to belong to an indigenous community or nation in accordance with the traditions and customs of the community or nation concerned. No discrimination of any kind may arise from the exercise of such a right. What that means is that once you proclaim your nationality, no matter whether you claim it through a temple no matter whether you claim it through any other Moorish organization, you are automatically indigenous to this land. And you're saying that you're a party to this document. And whatever organization you went through to be able to proclaim that, you have the right to do so. They can't tell you that, oh, nah, you need to go through the Secretary of State to be a national, or you need to utilize Title VIII to be a national. No, you don't have to do none of that. All you got to do is go through your indigenous community. Your indigenous community is the one who prescribes the rules and regulations. You don't go to, you go to China, if you go there, you're going to be naturalized because, I mean, you're not Chinese. Chinese is a nation. If somebody's over here, and somebody from China is born over here, he's still Chinese by descent. You understand? You go to Chinese, you get naturalized. Somebody comes over here, you naturalize them. We need to naturalize Europeans. We need to set that up because they're falsely claiming to be Americans. They don't belong here. They come from Europe. We are the ones that belong here. This is why the Republic is dissolved. They're not even a party to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. This is why when you use it in the courtroom, they'll act like they don't recognize it. Because you're dealing with a body of people who ain't even a party to that Treaty of Peace and Friendship. They don't represent the Republic. They represent a corporation called U.S., which is completely outside of the Republic. But under color of law, we all know what color of law means, correct? It means the appearance without the semblance, or the appearance or semblance without the substance of the legal right. I mean, it appears to be, but it's not. Just like the U.S. appears to be the United States Republic, but it ain't. It's just a corporation, just something that exists on paper.
I want to speak on
Islam.
Speak on this more. Based on where you've gotten to so far in the document, right? It's very apparent to students of the Prophet that they're actually echoing the words of the Prophet. And you're only at Article 9 right now. Right? So from the practices that indigenous people have that we've had since ancient time to what Noble Drew Ali presented to the Moors since 1913 to 1929, they're upholding his standard. Now, do you think that they're doing that as a signal strictly to Negro, black, colored people to wake up? By
Absolutely.
Putting this declaration up, or these declarations up?
Absolutely. Because, I mean, now, I don't know if you ever studied Supreme Wisdom. Why, it's questions and answers by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Fard Muhammad with David Ford Hill, Elijah Poole Bay,
right,
as to be known in Moorish Science Temple. Well, this is how the story goes with the Nation of Islam. Let me get into this real quick and then I'm going to answer that question. The Nation of Islam was established by Master Fard Muhammad. According to the Nation of Islam, he came and taught Elijah Muhammad 3.5 years straight. Everything that he taught him, he examined him on it. After those 3.5 years was up, he examined him on it in the form of questions and answers, just like the questionnaire. And what that's called in the Nation of Islam is Supreme Wisdom. In the Nation of Gods and Earths, which comes from the Nation of Islam, it's called 120. And it's, 120 questions and answers. Asked by Master Fard Muhammad, answered by Elijah Muhammad until it gets to the English C lesson number 1, which is vice versa. It's Elijah Muhammad asking the questions and Fard Muhammad answering the questions. Now, he goes into a vast degree of history throughout those lessons. And one of the things that he outlines in there is that the devil's rule, when he talks about the devil, he's talking about the Europeans being the devil. He says that the devil's rule was up in 1914, and he utilizes mathematics and the Asiatic calendar that he utilized, which is also, 25,000 years in conjunction with an astrological year, astrological gray year. He breaks breaks down in there how the devils rule, how the Europeans rule from his creation, from the Yakub experiment. His rule is up in 1914. So when Noble Drew Ali appeared on the scene in 1913, but for one, he's the one who gave Elijah Muhammad that body of information to even give that answer. That was the end of the devil's rule right there. But it has to start in the same manner of belief, faith, and fruition, or knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. It has to go in that same direction. So the initial step was the knowledge that Noble Drew Ali brought. Now, we at a point in time where we have to live or utilize the wisdom, which is the ways, right? The ways and actions, the manifestation of the knowledge that Noble Drew Ali gave us. And after us is when the fruition will actually come into everything that's been put into place, or the understanding, everything that's been laid out. That's the process. And these Europeans, all these master masons, they well aware of these sciences. So this is why documents like this are starting to come out. You know what I'm saying? Just like in conjunction with what you were saying. You said you think that they're doing this, making these documents to honor what Noble Drew Ali laid out. Absolutely correct. I mean, it's prophecy. This is why he has that degree called prophet. And they're well aware of what prophecy is. So of course, yeah, they know their time is up. Some of them are rebellious to their time being up. Some of them are really truly in tune with spirituality and know when it's time to get up. So documents like this are going to come out. And this is why I'm trying to like really get people to start acknowledging the rights of indigenous people. You know, for those of us in particular that like to exercise, you know, things like right to travel and, you know, Moorish tags, things like that. Exercising all the specific rights that, you know, we're going to come across policy enforcers for, you know, those rights. I'm trying to get people to, you know, start studying this rights of indigenous people the same way we know the Constitution, and start utilizing this in the same manner, because, I mean, that's what it's there for. It's there so that we can continue what the prophet already knew was going to happen. He knew this was going to happen. He was all wise. Master. Islam.
Islam.
How much time we got?
Let's say it's 7:15 right now, so we can go to 7:30.
Okay.
And then as well, we're gonna need your advice. Now, when we do lectures, Skype lectures, first time people have to give us some words of wisdom moving forward as far as the body of Moorish and Canaanland. So you can do that. You can do that at the end, and then close us out with the prayer and all that. But you continue on. We got 15.
All right, Islam. Let me see.
And then
let's skip down to part 12.
Keep in mind we'll set up a part 2, so you don't have to rush yourself to get in what you didn't get in or whatever. We'll do this again for sure.
All right, yeah, that's why I asked you how much time we have.
Yeah.
Because if we show like that, we can cut off right here at Article 9, and then we can do part 2.
Yeah.
And I can open back up on the Constitution, and then continue back up.
All right, yeah. All right, we can do that for sure. All right.
So yeah, the words of wisdom. You want to get into that?
Yeah, because right now we're at 2 hours 42 minutes right now.
Okay. All right. The words of wisdom. Like I was building with the brother earlier, sitting right directly in front of the camera. He was asking me about the economics of what we need to do and when we need to do it, and I was telling him like what I want to do is, you know, I got a subordinate temple too. What I want to have, I'm speaking with the Supreme Grand Sheik, and I'm trying to get it to the point where, you know, I can issue charters. So I'm gonna have to have a straight up temple to issue charters. And what I want to do is, I want to set up a nice grand body to a point where every Grand Sheik is, you know, every temple is putting out $30 a month. We set a goal. We set a goal to buy property or land, either or. And once we, you know, everybody keeps on putting up $30 a month. We had, let's just say we had 22 temples. Everybody's putting out $30 a month. For 2 years, 3 years, we'll have enough finances to be able to start doing what the Jews have been doing in Lakewood, where I'm from, in New Jersey. You know what I'm saying? Start going in there and buying up land, start going in there and buying up property, start, you know, going to the foreclosed auctions and just advancing and expanding and getting all types of property to the point where we go into a neighborhood and it looks just like a Jewish neighborhood in Lakewood, but you see Moors and the feds is on and turbans on. And then, you know, it's to the point where the Europeans looking at us like, I can't stand those Moors. The same way our Asiatic brothers look at them and say, oh, I can't stand them Jews. They buying up everything. We need to have it to the point where we can do that to the point where they'll have us, or we'll have them saying the same thing about us. Yeah, I can't stand them Moors. They buying up everything. They building everywhere. And that's, I mean, that's my initial step into, you know, achieving that goal. I'm going to, you know, speak to the grand body as well about it. I already spoke to Alim about it, and I spoke to Adar about it, and, you know, we still got to go further to see, you know, where I can step my foot in and take my place amongst the affairs of men to push that forward. And I want to do the same thing with y'all. I want to connect with y'all on the same level.
Come through.
You got a question, Mark?
Son.
It's on, brother. It's on, brother.
Son.
You said that you wanted to put the money together and buy land. But how would that work? Who would you buy the land from? If the land's already ours.
From the foreclosed market.
So we've been paying back the actual people that did the foreclosing in the first place?
All of the temples, I mean, it's still open. It's just my initial suggestion for the whole thing. No, it's still open for, you know, other critiquing.
What I'm saying,
you know what I'm saying? But this is just my initial suggestion.
No, it sounds
good. This is
good.
what the Jews been doing.
Yeah, but it sounds good. But what I'm saying is that your plan sounds great, right? But I just don't know the ins and outs of when you buy the foreclosed land, who are you buying the land from?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know? You have to buy it. There's multiple ways of buying it. You can buy it off the mortgage foreclosed market, or you can buy it off the tax foreclosed market, which would be a lot cheaper. It just takes longer. You buy it off the mortgage foreclosed market, you get it that day.
No.
You buy it off the tax foreclosed market, then you have to wait. So it depends on where you're at. It could be 6 months, it could be a year. If people don't pay their property taxes, they auction it off. They have a year or 6 months to pay that. If they don't pay it within that year or 6 months, then it's yours. They give it to you.
So now is that yours, or you just have the mortgage, or just have the deed for it?
Nah, if you do it through the tax foreclosed, nah, it's yours. Only thing you gotta do is pay property taxes, which if you put in the name of the temple, you ain't gotta pay none of that. Okay. Which is what the Jews do. The Jews do that. They put all their houses, all their property in the name of their temples. They got huge temples, and they're always packed. Saturday they don't drive around, they honor the Sabbath. Friday night, holy day, you won't see them driving around in no vehicles. You won't see them using no electricity, none of that. They all walking. But you know, that's the initial step I'm taking towards, you know, economic security.
Wow.
It's love. Real.
Son.
All right, brother.
All right, you want to close out with the prayer?
Yeah, before we close out, let's do the brother. Hey, we're honored, man.
I appreciate it. It's an honor for me. I appreciate y'all having me on here.
Oh, man, most deaf, man. You got to come up here, you know, bless up with the
I want to come up. I'm coming.
You know, I'm going to get your contact, too.
First chance I get, I'm coming up there.
Come through. I'm going to get your contact.
I got a live demonstration I want to give.
Okay. Okay, do your thing, man.
Wow. Yeah, Morris, you can close us out.
All right, you going to close out with the prayer?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got Morris? 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love. Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
And my salvation.
By night. And by day. To his holy prophet. Noble Ali. Islam.
Straight up.
Islam, boy. Give thanks again,
Peace.
Islam, Grand Chief.
We'll set up once again, Grand Chief.